guys hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I was kind of taking numbers, like when we were all sitting down at the round table dinner at the gin event, and we were like people in gin who have Technotutor. It's a good 25-30%.
The whole group.
Yeah.
Oh, shit. Of like all the people there.
I walked through and I was like looking at the tables, seeing who's sitting at the tables, all that stuff, right? And it's like,
oh, that was a good time to do it because you could see everything. That's smart.
Exactly, right? And it's cool to walk around and all that. And so it was just looking at this point of like, okay, I remember back in, 2018, 2017 of like, even 2016, 2017, just like a little sputter of like a couple of people here and there versus now, if you really think about it, how Alex found, Alex Cadet, right?
Dude,
it's like he
just go ahead and dox him, give his address. I know you want to do it.
This is where he lives. This is where he said it. But it's a really interesting symbolic point, right? And this is called the 100th monkey syndrome, right? This is called the tipping point. It's when you're just walking as a group and people want to become part of it.
Dude,
that's actually how it happened.
Isn't that story so crazy? Like, remember how we got to walking in the first place?
It's like Justin Briggs being like,
yeah,
all right, we're going for a walk.
Yeah. Exactly.
So it's like we were up in our suite with like, I don't even know how many people were in there, 40, 50 people, like standing room only.
Yeah.
Right. In a gigantic parlor of a suite. Right. And I think people were eating pizza. I think we were done with the pizza, but there was it. Like there was no drinking, drugs, nothing else. There wasn't even any music playing or anything. And yet it was for like hours. And this was every night.
Yeah.
For hours until like 1, 2 o'clock, until like security would come and tell people to leave, or we would eventually go downstairs and sit around the pool or whatever. But this particular night, Justin decided, like, I don't know what made him do this, but he was like, I want to go on a walk around like the hotel. So he went and started telling everybody to go, and people were giving resistance, of course. And he was just like persuading everybody. And then before you know it, we're all like, okay, we're going. And like the whole group like goes down together to like walk around the entire premise of the, the hotel through by the golf courses at night in Florida. We were like dodging alligators. It was pretty cool.
Dude, there's more to that story too. Like, because not only were people giving him resistance, like people were just flat out telling him no. And like, he still got the entire room to go for this walk. And then when we got down, the first person that we saw when we got down there was Maya, right? Like, he just pulled up. So great. And
Maya had just come.
Yeah.
She wasn't even planning to come. She was, but she just changed her mind, blah, blah, blah. Long story short, her husband had borrowed my truck to go pick her up at the airport. And so as this whole group of like 40, 50 people, whatever, was coming out of the hotel lobby into like the valet area, here comes the truck. And I saw it before anyone else, because I don't think anyone else realized it was my truck coming, right? And then she pulls in and this whole group of people is like, and I was like, Maya, or somebody's like, Maya. And she's like out the window waving, and we're all like, yay, like clapping. And she's like, wow, like this reception,
Right.
It's so cool.
Right.
Total coincidence, right?
Yeah. And then we went for that walk. And then from what I heard, like,
didn't you give a speech on the back of that truck, Drake?
I did. But that was
more of a sermon.
I recorded that too.
But then like from that walk, that's where Alex just saw like a group of people walking. And he was like, I want to join this group.
I think he was walking and we kind of just engulfed
So
him.
he wasn't a part of our group.
He literally said on the Self-Perfected Hangout, he said, I just saw a bunch of people having fun, walking. I was like, I want to be.
Wow. Interesting.
So here's my point. We are doing everything that Jen talks about. And I would suggest that we're the only group that is doing everything that Jen talks about. It's the only way to actually have a tipping point. It's when you do the right things long enough, consistently over a long period of time.
But I want to add this point, because we're a group. Like, and this is a point that Bernard really drives home, like in a lot of videos, and when we were interpersonal, support, all that kind of stuff, like the power of the group. You can't do it alone. And so when you look at the average person in the world, whether they're in gym or not, they're trying to do their own thing, not in a group, because it's like, well, I don't want to be in a cult. I don't want to lose my individuality. I don't, I want blah, blah, blah. But what they don't realize is by default, they are part of a group. It's just in a way you don't realize it. You know what I mean? It's in a way where you get to feel like you're an individual, but you're still a part of a group. You're still, I went to this dinner the other night and a bunch of people around a table. I was invited to this dinner. So it's people I didn't already know at all. Got to know them over the course of the night. But I remember at one point you were talking about my kids and I was saying, we were just in Florida for 2 weeks and we didn't go to Disney. And they were like, really? Like, oh, and I was like, yeah, our kids don't even know what Mickey Mouse is. Like, they don't watch Disney. They don't even watch TV. And it was interesting because these people were not a part of our group. They were just kind of people I was meeting for the first time. And that kind of glossed right over, and it's funny because I was about to go into, how Disney brainwashes kids, but I kind of could read it like, I'll leave it for a moment. And they all went around talking about how, oh yeah, this time we took our kids to Disney and this thing and this thing. And I'm like, wow. And these are people who are, I would say, relatively well-connected, entrepreneurs, people higher levels of society. And like, they don't even see that that's a problem at all. Yeah. Like, so they're busy brainwashing their kids with Disney. And then some of them even complaining about all the stuff going on with trains, blah, 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 whatever. It's like, well, but Disney's brainwashing your kids with that stuff. And you're complaining. But it's like, but I don't want to take away the magic. It's like, guys, magic's not real. I hate to
when I realizing they just got brainwashed by Disney.
What is real magic? Okay, I'm gonna throw it back to you, Asif. But the point is, the real magic is what you just talked about. It's like us being in a group, like with a common purpose, having a lot of fun. So when we were at those events, maybe we'll talk about that. The recap, like I had the most fun just being. Like I've never, ever been to parties where I actually enjoyed myself, just genuinely, like without having to. Every time I would go to a party in the past, it would feel like work.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? And this was a party when we would have our parties at night. It wasn't even a party. It wasn't like, hey, we're having a party. It was just like, where are we hanging out tonight? Oh yeah, Cameron's room. Or John, he had the suite above ours. So eventually we moved it up there so the kids could sleep because it was getting so late. And then, or we're going down to the pool. It wasn't a party in the sense of like, there was no music. There was no drinking. There was no, at some point people would buy pizza just because it's like we're hanging out for so long and people bought water. But other than that, like that was it. There was no reason to be in there except everybody wanted to just talk to each other. You know what I mean? Like we just wanted to talk to each other. And you could go from person to person and conversation to conversation and just start jumping right in and talking, and anyways, so the group, that's what I want to emphasize. The group with a common set of principles. Like, when you read about masterminds in that Law of Success book, right?
Yeah.
We talked about what a mastermind is, but it's like, you have to keep it really small because otherwise there's no fucking way you're going to be able to trust more than 5 people to really be in a mastermind with you. But that was a mastermind with like 50 people,
massive,
just having fun with a common purpose. And it's not like we have to, each person that was there was kind of in a different point in their own process within what we're doing and so forth. But it was like, there was no drama. I would say there was only one case of that I found out about later. And it was because of someone who was there, who was not really fully on board and they were drinking, not at the party, but they had been drinking. And it wasn't a big thing. It was just like some bullshit feminine, that bitch talking to my boyfriend kind of bullshit. Like, and it didn't even no one even noticed it because it was like so minor. You know what I mean? But it just shows to show she's not walking with the principles and she's drinking. And that's why we do the principles and we don't drink.
Yeah.
Right. So anyways, please ask us. Yeah.
Well, no, we're just chatting about it because it was really cool. We had a Clubhouse this weekend. There was like a bunch of people.
Oh yeah, I saw that picture. That's good.
This is really cool. And one of the girls there, she's kind of been watching us on Facebook for a while. And it was the first time meeting her in person. I think I had mentioned the point of like, because she would see the stories of everybody in the room and all that stuff. We're just having so much fun. And I remember she messaged me. She's like, this is amazing. Where is this? And so in that Clubhouse, I've mentioned the point of like, nobody was drinking. Nobody was doing any drugs. Nobody was high, anything. She was like, wait, what?
What were you doing?
Like, wait, you guys, wait, did you just say you weren't drunk or doing drugs or anything? I was like, yeah. She's like, interesting. And like, we laughed about it and we talked about it a bit. I'm like, wait, why'd you say interesting? And she had told her story from 15 to 19. She was a super heavy drinker, going through a lot because of her environment. And then at 19, she found out she was pregnant and she cut it off 100%. So she had to let go of all of her friends, right? And then she would join these mom groups, but she was saying nobody takes you seriously when you're a 19-year-old who's pregnant. And she's like, it's been so hard to find people, right? He's like, you didn't see this. I didn't know this was coming, which I'm glad I asked her, but she's like, it's been so hard to find people who don't drink and can have like an amazing time. And I realized it's like, you know, when you say like, oh, you don't drink, their idea is like, oh, you're fucking boring.
Right.
Or you're like a
people have this-
recovering alcoholic or something.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
oh, I can't drink because otherwise I'll just fucking lose it.
Exactly. I'll go
That was all of
back out
us.
and like hit people.
kidding.
Yeah, like, start a fight. But
Yeah, exactly.
what I realized was people associate the fun and happiness and excitement and just being able to relax and all that stuff with alcohol, obviously. So they think if you remove alcohol, you can't have those things. But no, we just have the tools so that you can always just be comfortable and be yourself and all that stuff. Mayla was telling me there was a guy who was walking back to his room, and I'll tell you that this guy, he just got Technotutor after the event. Like he's like, I'm getting it. And then afterwards, me and Kian.
But like coincidentally, randomly, no one sold it to him at the event. Like it was just like he was walking on the street, he saw a copy, and then he like paid for it. Nothing to do with it.
Exactly. But he was such a different person. I met him at the cocktail reception, and he was like smiling, energetic, all that stuff. And afterwards, he's like, "Hey, what's up, man? Like, really chill."
Oh no, his energy is gone. We can't harvest it now.
What you just said.
There's
right?
all these
That
other
energy-
people like
that
sucking
energy
it
is
out.
gone.
Like, yes, we got one.
Mhm.
Come sit with us.
He was making this point of his social battery was drained.
Oh, okay, yeah. Like I'm done.
And the interesting part was when he said this, it was Maylat who actually heard that from him, because she was going up to the room and he was coming away from the room. And she's like, oh, like I'm on my way to the, I think it was Cope's or John's room, wherever we were at that time. She's like, you coming? He's like, no, like my social battery's pretty joined. It must have been like Saturday night or something like that, right? Or Friday night or Sunday night or something like that. And she's like, oh, that's how I was feeling too. But then I just went and did some Technotutor on it, and now I'm good to go. I realized I don't have to put up a character anymore. I could just be like, if you don't have it, no problem. He's like, oh, you could use Technotutor for that? Fuck,
That's
dude,
cool.
my internet is killing me right now.
It is, dude. It sucks.
Fortunately, we could hear everything you said, so that was good.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But that's
Yeah.
cool. Maylat's becoming an amazing salesperson. She did the like, oh, I used to feel that way too. But then it's like the classic technique. But it just shows you like those techniques are just fucking obvious. Like they come out naturally when you're trying to persuade somebody. Like
Mhm.
When
you can go and read the technique in a book. Huh?
When what you're saying is honest, like it's
Right.
actually-
Like if you're genuinely trying to help someone understand something, you're gonna say like, oh dude, I used to feel that way too. Like I did this and now I'm feeling like this. Like
so
this
my
happened,
point in bringing that up was like, again, Maylat prior to this stuff was just like what a social event was hang out with your friends, getting really drunk and not really talking about anything. Versus we had the cottage weekend in line with when Mitchell had everybody was over at his place and stuff like that. And she was breaking out of this point of like, I could literally just be myself. And I could say like whatever I need to say to push somebody to the next step and all this stuff. So she was processing this point of, it was so funny with her friends. She's always like at 10 p.m. She's like, okay, like I'm tired. Like I want to go to sleep. Like 10 p.m. She's like, okay, check me out. Like I'm going home. Like I'm going to sleep. But she's staying up to like 4 a.m. with everybody, like, just going hard, not drunk, not anything. And so the point is like, she had felt that point come up earlier. She went to her Technotutor. She's like, oh, this is just something I have to let go of. Let it go. And then she was good for the rest of the weekend. And it was so cool.
Yeah.
Because then it's like what we're creating is something totally different, totally new. Where that girl that I was talking about who was at the Clubhouse was like, oh, you guys aren't drinking. It's like, yeah, you can have that great of a time literally all the time. Cameron made this point when we were at the event. He asked everybody in the room, he was like, are you guys trying to feel good right now? Is anybody thinking about trying to feel good right now? And everyone's like, no. He's like, but you feel good, don't you? So yeah, everyone's like, yeah. That's what life is supposed to be.
Yeah.
If you're with people, if you're united in a common purpose, if you're doing these things, you don't have to focus on the feeling. You focus on holding yourself to a standard where when you're in that environment, because I'll tell you something, in the past, when I'd be in an environment like that, I would just feel guilty the whole time. Because I'm like, all these people are way better than me and I'm a fucking loser and blah, 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 blah. I don't feel that way anymore because I'm not that anymore, because I changed, because I took responsibility in my life. And so being with such a group of people, and the cool part is what Cameron was saying is we're all having these conversations. I'll tell you, I'm sure there's some conversation you could just jump in on, whatever. And there's other conversations where if you listen to it, people are getting pushed to the next fucking level.
Dude, 100%.
Cameron, you're muted. Yeah. Cameron's like,
I was just going, yeah.
Yeah, no, I was definitely in some of those conversations where like people were getting challenged. You know what else is really cool is like,
but no one was drinking, so nobody was fighting.
Right.
Right. It was like okay, tell me, like it was an actual conversation. It wasn't just like
and most of the people were asking for it too. Right. They were like, I want to hear this, please. No, don't stop, And Cam, you were making this point yesterday about how like guys trying to pick up women, right? They'll learn all these techniques, like learning all the sales techniques, right? And then like that becomes their whole game, or their whole life is just this technique, right? And in the same way, in like social settings, people will learn these like maybe what they should talk about, how to talk to people to get them engaged and all that. And then they become that character, right? And then that's like what's socially draining, right? But when you're actually living it, you don't have to do that. Like something that I just now had the realization of when I was getting into or proposing a relationship agreement with Christine, I didn't have to do any of the like, I don't know, like pickup artists, all that bullshit. Like it was just like literally, hey, this is what I want from a relationship. Are you interested in that? Yes or no?
Where did she come from?
But she came from the group, exactly. So she wanted to have those principles. She didn't want to play those games either. And it's cool because you shared that video with the guys, and in that video he says, when you start going into like the pickup artist type of community and you're playing all these games or whatever to get women, you attract women like that who are going to respond to those games, who are going to play those games.
Talks about the dark triad.
Exactly. Where you become like Machiavellian instead of like, just being here and present. You're like, okay, I'm going to do this and that's going to make her like run away, but then I'm going to do this. It's going to make her come back, like all that shit.
Do you guys ever watch Always Sunny in Philadelphia?
Oh yeah.
the Dennis system. Yeah. If you haven't, anybody just watch that later. Look up the Dennis system on Always Sunny, like clip. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
He's a perfect example of that exactly.
Right.
He's a perfect example of that guy who kind of like is more focused on the pickup and not actually any real substance.
Yeah. But yeah, I was just realizing like within our group, we don't have to do that. Like, because we already stated our purpose. We've already, it's really clear who we are, where we're going. So we don't have to bullshit you and like.
We have the same purpose.
Yeah.
The purpose is clear and it's the best possible purpose. And the purpose is
to feel good. Oh.
It's the best possible purpose. So it's not based on anyone's opinion. It's not based on my opinion. It's not based on Bernard's opinion. It's not based on y'all's opinion. So you let go of your opinions. You can have opinions if they don't interfere with the purpose that we're talking about. Otherwise, opinions are flexible. It's like everyone has the right to their own opinion. Do you?
No.
Do you actually have the right to decide your own opinions? Or do your opinions come with your programming and you're like, no, these are my opinions. I have to have these opinions. I have changed many of my opinions to be in alignment with what's best.
Yeah.
Some opinions you have might be okay already. And it's like, imagine the person who's like, how dare you tell me what my opinion should be? And it's like, first of all, you're telling me right now that that's an opinion I shouldn't have. Gotcha. But second of all, but did you already go, Mitch?
Yeah.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, it's quick.
You talk sparingly, so I didn't notice. It's okay.
Surprise.
When Mitch says something though, it hits. Like lately, you've been telling a lot of jokes where it'll be like really good. Anyway, so what was I saying though?
Well, I'm actually doing the Machiavellian style, so I'm like
He's
thinking
playing a
through
game
everything
here.
I'm gonna
Yes.
do.
He's
So
like
I
way
can't
over
be here.
analyzing.
Yeah.
What was I talking about, Acid?
You're talking about
I really don't even remember.
No,
It's
I
there.
literally don't remember.
no, it's
Anyways, if anybody remembers, put it in the chat and we'll know it for next
and then
time.
like and comment and share.
Yeah, now's a good time to say that. Like, comment, share.
No, you're talking about
subscribe.
opinions, people's opinions.
yeah, you can't get having an opinion that takes away from.
Yeah, imagine it's like you're like upset that someone's challenging your opinions, but you didn't really investigate where your opinions came from. I was talking to someone over the weekend. You guys will know who I'm referring to, more like one-on-one after the event was over. And we were talking about purpose, right? And I was asking him, I was like, what is your purpose? And at first he was like, well, it's kind of a personal question. And I go, it shouldn't be. Right. And he was like, well, I mean, you know, I have my purpose. You know yours. I'm like, I would share my purpose with you. I have no problem. I can defend my purpose. I can explain it. I can tell you why it's the best one. I'm like, and he was like, well, my purpose is, you know, to be content. And I'm like, that's not a purpose. That's not a purpose. Right. And I could see he was really challenged by that. Right. And it was kind of like, well, you know, there's going to be consequences if you challenge people on those points. I'm like, okay. I said, yeah, you're going to have consequences in your life that you're going to have to face if you don't realize what the fuck I'm saying. Like, don't try to threaten me like, oh, I might beat you up, you know, like almost like a subtle, like, hey, if you push too hard, there might be a consequence. I mean, you're going to have the consequence. It's, you have kids, you have a wife, whatever, and you're going to fuck all those things up because you don't have purpose. And I'm already watching it fall. Like, it's like if you were at someone's house and you were like an expert in house construction, and you can see all these like specific cracks in certain places, and you're like, oh, dude, this guy's got some serious foundation issues. That's 5 years from now, this house is gonna be fucked. Mm-hmm. And they're like, how dare you? Like, this house is beautiful. It's amazing. I'm like,
No, they're
right,
like,
don't listen to me, but you're gonna be sorry.
You ask them the perspective. You're like, what do you think it takes? What do you think is required to take care of a house? They're like, you don't have to. The house will take care of itself. And you're like,
it's like, you just gotta feel good about it. You just gotta feel comfortable in it.
This is really interesting. Because yesterday when we were watching that video, when you brought up that idea of the Tesla bots, and then we were watching that Boston Dynamics video with those robots doing parkour, that's what I was seeing.
Like synchronized double backflips.
Yeah,
like,
and I'm seeing the world as this house that's fucked up, and as someone with just basic knowledge of how a house should look, now compare that to how the world looks. And I can see, obviously, okay, now Elon Musk is working on these Tesla bots that are going to do the dangerous work that no human should do. And they can run 10 miles an hour and they don't stop, and they're going to be solar panel charged. What the fuck do you think is going to happen to everybody who's working a minimum wage job right now? They're not going to have work. And then, of course, then it's going to be problem, reaction. And then the solution, which is going to be, some sort of universal basic income based on a social credit score, because you don't have money and you don't have work and you're retarded. And so you don't know what to do. That's right here.
Yeah, that's a really good point. That's a really good point. That, like what you said, the social credit score point is what people aren't considering, because they're like, oh, look, basic income, it's coming, it's good.
It's like only if you wear a mask.
Right, but
only
that's
if
what,
you say certain
exactly.
things.
It's not going to be, oh, if you're actually a good person. It's going to be like,
It's
these
if the
bullshit
independent
things.
fact checkers say you're a good person.
You know, it's funny. Someone commented on a video that I did in December of 2020. And it was a video challenge that you had suggested, Mitch, of what I'm gearing up for in 2021, right? And I saw the comments first. I wasn't going to watch my whole video again. I saw the comments and it was like, WTF was the first comment, right? And the second comment was, I can't even finish this, right? So I was like, I gotta watch this. See what did I say? Was it like something about forced vaccinations or something? And like I was basically predicting more lockdowns, more control, your money's worth less, inflation, all that stuff. And I was like, this is fucking accurate. Like someone just commented on this 2 days ago and they're reacting to it like, you're fucking dumb. Like you don't get it, right? Wow. But like it's so clear. It's funny because, you know, just from using Technotutor and then just having open eyes, like you're able to see the pattern of what's coming down the line, right?
Yeah.
And
well,
yeah, go ahead.
Well, here's this point that opens up. I just noticed within myself of when you have someone commenting on a video where you're saying just common sense stuff and then like, WTF, I can't even finish this. It's like in that moment, then what is the best course of action? Because there's this part of me that wants to at least comment back, at least open the door one more time to them. Like, what did you mean by that? Care to elaborate? Because then maybe you can help them shift and then they can, you know, join Self-Perfected and then walk the process.
Right.
But it's like, do you guys know what I'm talking about? Where it's like, how much do I put into trying to support this person who clearly needs support, but it's they're acting like they don't want.
I have an alternative approach.
Yeah. Alternative means.
Let's hear about the alternative. I like alternatives. I like alternative music.
Yeah, I mean, I would just go back at him. You know what I mean? Amplify it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would probably say something clever that would trigger them.
Yeah.
I just find when I do that, people just get triggered and then they just totally fuck off.
Right. That's the point though, but you imprint on them. That's the point. You trigger them, then, so you're imprinting because you're standing within principles. And now it's like you're putting something and they have to face later, which when they face it, they have to come back. Huh? Oh,
this is so good yesterday. Oh man. Not to go too in depth into it, but one of my friends who's here, he has like a gin type mastermind call on Sundays. And there was one guy on there in particular who was kind of seen as this authority guy in the group. I don't know why. And he's saying something about like, you got to apply the things that Kevin's talking about. It's all about application. Meanwhile, the guy doesn't even pay for gin. And so I couldn't hold back. And I just confronted him in front of 30 some people.
Yeah.
It was great. It was fairly civil. I didn't react, but by the end, it was fascinating how he's like, yeah, man, like I'm not here to try and start any problems. And like, you know, you could tell he didn't want someone to not like him. And I was clearly not liking him and I wasn't participating in his game.
Yeah.
And it was fascinating because a lot of people picked up on it because I don't think they'd ever seen someone confront with real certainty.
But that's good because you said this point about people perceiving him as an authority, and then you basically, because of that, were able to bring him down a little bit, which is good to do because he's clearly not understanding principles.
Yeah. And within myself, I'm like, this is unacceptable. Like I'm committed within myself to do what's best for all. So I can't just give tacit approval to this dude saying apply the training and then he's not applying lesson 1 CD1 of your, which is your command, which is put your money into it, like you have to invest time and money.
Right. Yeah.
And so
it's not giving as he wants to receive either.
Yeah, exactly. And then he was going on about how he's like, well, no, I am giving because I'm giving value to this group and I'm leading a book club or something. I'm like, oh, buddy. All right.
First of all,
Jess hopped in the call too. Dude, Jess hopped in the call too. It was so great. And she came in and she's like, she's just very direct, like she is.
She's your pit bull.
Was it?
She's your pit bull.
Yeah, exactly. She's the pretty pit bull.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's up, Asif? He's back.
Yeah, so I changed nothing about my internet, so we'll see how it goes.
Sometimes if you have an extra device, just turn your device off Wi-Fi.
I did do that. Maybe I'll do
Turn
that
your
for
wife
my-
off your Wi-Fi.
Oh, okay. That's a good.
Future wife.
He goes to do it. Love it.
Yeah, but yeah, it's interesting because that's that imprinting, and I could see in the moment when it happened because he went into this big reaction and then tried to combat it with energy, and I'm just like not participating.
So what I've done generally is like I'll play the game a little bit with somebody, like the personality game, the pleasantries, the chit chat, and then you get a little bit deeper and deeper until you pick up on the point where it's like it's really there, and you can usually feel the pressure. You know what I mean? Like because you can read them, like they're starting to resist, right? And then you find that point to really trigger them on, and that's when you get into like certainty. Because it's like when you're in a group where everyone's walking with the same principles, you can just be in that mode all the time, like certain, serious, like talking, you know, like it's not like you can't be joking around, but I'm saying you're always bringing it back to that point. But with somebody who's not already in, you have to kind of like get in there a little bit until they're really starting to react. And then it's like what that guy I was telling you about, where I was like kind of being like push and pull a little bit until he asked the point about purpose, and he told me his purpose, and I'm like, that's not a purpose. Like now I'm suddenly like certain. You should, not that I wasn't before, but it's like now I'm giving you the certainty. Yeah. It's like you're really reacting, and then it's like, no, that's not a purpose. Then I told him, I'm like, and then later in the conversation, and I think he was more like listening. It wasn't like I was talking to him directly. So when I wanted to talk to him directly, what I would do is I would look at Avery, and I would talk to Avery. And of course, Avery already agrees with me, but it's like I would shift it to talking to Avery of like when I wanted to say something very directly, you know. And I was talking to Avery, right? And I was like, I mean, the reality is I'm not here to support people to find their purpose. I'm here to help them adopt the purpose of what we're doing. If your purpose is not to build Technotutor, you have no purpose. Like there is no other valid purpose. I don't care what your purpose is. So it's like, as I had said that to him, then I'm like shifting it over to like give that point to it. Just naturally, that's what we did. But so the point is there's technique to it, but it's like a natural thing when you're in a group setting.
Yeah. And for everyone listening to this who just reacted and is like, oh, well, Cameron, of course, Cameron's going to say that he's the CEO of Technotutor, whatever your position.
Well, I'm not the CEO, but
oh, well, case resolved.
We don't have a corporate structure, so I'm not the CEO.
It's but for real, like it's so it becomes so obvious, especially when you use the tools.
But that'd be like saying, well, of course Elon Musk wants everyone to have Teslas. It's like, well, yeah, that's why he fucking spent and risked his whole fucking life to build the company.
Yeah.
But like, you know what I mean? And I know what you're saying, because people will say that, but it's like, oh, okay, you're just jealous. If you're saying that, you know what I mean? If you're really feeling that, it's like, I wouldn't dedicate my entire life to doing something that is not important. And of course, I'm going to tell people. So look at the other side of it. Look at the catch-22 that you're putting the person in your mind. So if you really care about something, you cannot benefit from it. So therefore, you have to go and do something else, which would actually show people that you're not really certain about the thing that you're saying in the first place. So you're not putting all of your cards up. You're not going all in. And if you go all in, then everyone can just say, well, of course you want us to do that because you benefit from it. It's like, well, what would you suggest?
All in on it.
You said it doesn't make any sense. It's like Elon Musk said, if Tesla and all those other companies go bankrupt, he goes bankrupt.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's not leveraging himself otherwise, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Right.
But also though, it's like, for real, this is the best purpose, because we're right now as humanity, it's like we're in a house that's on fire and it's going to burn down and we're all going to fucking die with it. And if you don't believe me, just look at what is the World Economic Forum projecting over the next 10 years, right? Look at automation and how fast that's changing. Look at how badly we're polluting the planet. Look at WW3, whatever you want to call it. And so, you know, look at all this max vaccination. It's like we're so barreling forward into the future where it's just going to be hell on earth, like this truly dystopian future, unless we all put the fire out, meaning become fucking educated so that we know how reality works, how ourselves work. And then we can actually come together, like that power of the group we were talking about earlier, where we have that, but it's everywhere you go. It's when you go out and visit your neighbors. It's like that level of conversation. That's
But Mitch,
what
how is that going to fix things?
Well, hold on. I want to add a point because you said hell on earth, right? I want to answer that too, but I want to go back to the hell on earth thing. Jesus said the kingdom of heaven is within.
Yeah, but Cameron, don't look at that part of the Bible. Look at the part where it's after my life.
Wait, are you
Right.
Jesus?
I have cognitive dissonance.
But what did he mean by that? What do you guys? I mean, I want to like.
Just a
Don't
translation.
tell me what you actually think. Tell me what the average person thinks of it.
That was just a translation. It's not actually within you. It's
Okay, what else?
Translation error.
But what does the average person actually use that to mean inside of them?
Like,
You
Jesus
can
lives
feel
in your
peace.
heart.
Yourself.
Jesus
Say
lives
it.
in your heart.
Okay.
Yeah, you can feel connected to God inside you.
Yeah, and also if you have a spiritual context, it's like your bliss that you have inside of you. That's heaven. It's within you. It's like you can have it within. You don't need to worry about what's going on outside.
Yeah.
But when you study destiny and you understand what heaven actually is, not heaven from the perspective of everything is great and amazing, heaven from the perspective of the metaphysical aspect of ourselves, the part that you can't see, the hidden dimensions. Like when you're thinking in your head and you're feeling stuff inside of you and no one can see that, that's heaven. It's not the physical part you see, it's the heaven aspect. It's the higher part, higher in quotes. So heaven, as your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions, all of the hidden stuff that is inside of you is what manifests outwardly based on your actions and what you accept and allow others to do, and the systems that you participate in and allow others to create and participate in with your permission, tacitly or otherwise. Heaven within manifests outwardly. So the hell on earth is the manifestation of the hell within, because instead of it being a heaven within, in the sense of it actually is all ordered perfectly the way you would actually want it, how does everybody want to experience themselves inside? It's that bliss thing, right? So you have to order yourself inside to be able to project that outward. But the problem is, how do people usually try to get bliss?
Focusing on bliss.
It's like, oh, I'm going to go on vacation or I'm going to go live on a cruise ship or some shit, right? And like, I'm just going to be amazing time or something. But what about the people who have to work on the cruise ship?
Mm-hmm. Or the port that you dock at.
Yeah.
So what does it mean to actually have heaven within? It's taking responsibility for all those points. And I kind of want to tie this back into where you kind of left off earlier, Asif, about at the sort of party we were doing every night, right? Where you made that point about how we were talking about, are you feeling good right now? But you're not even focused on feeling good. But what is everyone there focused on? Like, and everybody
Purpose.
At varying degrees.
Purpose and going to the next level for
going to the next
themselves.
level, but specifically like using Technotutor, doing their DIP, and then the gen part is going to the events, the networking, all those things, studying destiny. And again, everybody has at various levels of that.
Yeah.
And some people were very new to it, but they wanted to be around people who kind of had been doing it longer and so forth, right? But you didn't really see any level of inequality in the group. There was no like, well, here's the leader, and then here's everybody else. It was just everybody talking. And some people who are more experienced with talking might talk and people would listen for a bit, but then it would go back to people just mingling and having side conversations, stuff like that. But there was no like, all right, everybody, you sit down because I'm going to teach you some stuff. That was not a thing. In fact, the only point really, like in that evening, we were talking about where I started talking was when people said, give a speech. You know what I mean? It was like, we wanted to have someone, because it was more like we were inaugurating the party everyone was coming to, or whatever, right? But that was like, that only happened once or twice. So,
I think you were doing something that was fun, that like everybody put their attention on you.
Oh, he started breakdancing in the middle.
That's what it was.
Oh, that's right. I was like pretending to break dance in a circle.
Yeah,
and then,
then
everyone was like laughing and they were like, give a speech or whatever.
That's
So
right.
then I just
I think that's what they're going to be. I think that's what every speaker is going to be doing before they speak at the next event. They learn that from you.
And for me, I was like, okay, this will be good practice for like when I'm doing political stuff and everything. Like I have to give a spontaneous speech to a group and actually give value, right? So that's what I was doing. I'm like, I can actually share with everyone. That's what I'm.
The breakdancing part.
Yeah, the breakdancing.
That was the value that you
gave. That's like, remember when
what did you think?
Joe Biden played Despacito and he was like, yeah, that's that's what you're gonna have to do.
That is what I will do. And I'll be like, don't you love this Mexican music? Right. They're like, we're Cuban. I don't even know Despacito what it is, but anyways, so feeling good now, that whole point. So it's like, how do we get this across? Because it sounds like what I'm saying is, so you have to create it within and then it'll come out. That it's not a focusing on feeling good within yourself, bliss. Like it's the structuring everything within yourself effectively so that what automatically comes out is best. The experience of that in moments is a sort of joy, bliss to varying degrees, ecstatic, or it could just be feeling pretty decent, enjoying yourself. But the focus internally is not, do I feel good? The focus is, what am I participating in within myself that is not best? What am I believing, holding on to that is opinionated rather than principle based? And then using the outside world as an indicator of, hey, why am I accepting this? What would I need to change about myself to no longer accept it and to actually be able to do something to change it? And like Bernard said, self-forgiveness doesn't change consequences. It supports you to face them. See what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and this is the point that people miss. It's like, you're not doing self-forgiveness to become blissful. You're doing self-forgiveness to support yourself to be able to stand in this world, in this system, and change that which needs to be changed outwardly. Like, oh no, you got to focus on yourself first. Yeah, that's what I just said. You forgive yourself for all the reasons why you can't stand up and change. That's the inward change. It's not, well, when I become blissful, then or something, or like the measurement is, am I able to change the outside world? So it's like, no, you focus on yourself first and then the outside world will change. No, you change yourself inwardly so you can change the outside world. The problem is if you just go try to change the outside world and you haven't changed the points, the opinions, beliefs, etc., what exactly are you trying to change and what are you trying to change it to? You see what I'm saying? But
yeah.
So to be able to change a system so that it's best for all, you have to change all that shit inside of you that would sabotage it, that doesn't want it to be best, that's just trying to protect an opinion or self-interest or whatever. So you use the outside world as a reflection of what you're currently accepting so you can change it on the inside to then go and change it on the outside. It's not an automatic, if I feel good, the world changes. And people even who study destiny can fall into this trap. If they're not walking within this group. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, you know how there's that phrase, it's be, do, have. So it's like common in Jinn, and I'm sure other groups where it's first you got to be, then you got to do things, and then you'll have the thing. And I see how someone could easily say like, well, I just got to be like happy. Then I got
a millionaire.
I got to be blissful. But in reality, what we're saying with the self-forgiveness is that's actually getting yourself ready to be. And then when you're in that moment, when you got to do something different, then you're going to have a different result. But it's a different look at the being isn't this energetic thing. You're not an energy being having a human experience, a whole spiritual being in a human body. It's like, no, you have a physical body. So we need to then get that programming cleared up. So then you can be the best version of yourself and then do and then have.
You know, even that statement of I'm a spiritual being having a human experience is a statement of separation. Because it's like, oh, I'm just here. Whoops. And I'm just a spiritual being and I'm having this human. No, it's like you are a human being.
Yeah.
That's what you are. Like, and you need to take responsibility for being in a human form. You have created human form from being a fucking idiot in your spiritual dimensions. Like, it's not something you just got thrown into. That's the excuse. Like, oh, some Anunnaki or something put me in a human and trap me here. And it's like, okay, fine, but then you're just a victim. Take responsibility for being human. Like one of the best audios that really supported me to fully integrate this point and understand it and start really living it was Divinity on Earth from Bernard. To the point where I made my own explanation of it from my own perspective for like a lower vocabulary crowd in a certain degree. You know what I mean? Because people couldn't really process maybe what he said. So I kind of gave my own points to add my perspective on how I understood it. And I didn't try to change what he said. It was just trying to make it even more clear in a simplistic way. Like you keep talking about divinity and like, oh, I'm a divine being. It's like, but would a divine being who's truly divine give a fuck about how they feel? They wouldn't. They're divine. They're fucking all powerful. They wouldn't care. It would not matter to them. It wouldn't affect them. They would come to Earth. And they would walk through fire if they had to.
Or walk on water.
Well, if you're smart, that's the second step.
That's right. You just walked on fire. You should have walked through water.
or they would walk in a big group around a resort at 1 a.m.
You run through the coals, and then you got those little hot little footsies, and you jump in the water and you keep running.
That's right.
And then you run right into the Technotutor group.
Right onto the cruise ship.
Onto the cruise ship.
You know, what's funny is I've been telling people that lately, what you've just described about the whole purpose of self-forgiveness is like you are recognizing your mistakes, you're becoming aware of it, and then why you've made the mistakes and why you've allowed that and accepted that. And then what you're no longer going to accept and allow, and you make a decision for preparing yourself, like Mitch was saying, you're preparing yourself for, okay, well, when this situation arises again, or when I have this feeling again, or whatever, here's how I'm going to correct it. And that's really like, you have to make decisions the entire way. It's like, I think some people, for whatever reason, believe that it just happens automatically or something, but you have to direct it the entire way. You have to know where it came from, how you're participating in it now, and then what is going to be the solution for you in the future. And sometimes you get that part wrong because like you're still learning it, right?
Yeah, you don't have the vocabulary necessarily.
Right.
I think one of the hardest hitting points like years back was the realization of like, oh, I'm not just gonna get what I want out of life because for whatever reason, like because I'm in Jinn or because I
had to go through that too. Like,
Dude,
oh
yeah. Like,
I actually have to do shit and like face the challenging points.
Yeah.
You know,
not happening automatically just because I'm a good person. But that's a spiritual program that everybody is running.
Yeah.
That's why they believe in God. Because like if I just believe in God,
if I just accept Jesus as my Lord and Savior, then I get to go to heaven. Yeah.
Of course we have to face that too.
Dude,
because it's within everybody.
It's so good because like when I first joined Jinn, like you're saying, as if like that was the hard part for me. I thought like, yeah, I just made this decision to join this club. And then once I joined the club, I was like, okay, I'm in now. So now my life is just going to be successful. Like I didn't even know about, you know, the library that they had and all that. And I was just like, I'm part of the club. So I'm in.
There's a certain members only document. And we were all kind of reading it together that last night, Monday night or something like that. There's two documents and we were reading from one of them, but the other one is talking about a guy who created like a specific vision for the group that they wanted to create, right? And it's like that is their entire intention, is making people feel like once they are simply just a part of this group, you're going to feel like there's a guardian, literally word for word, a guardian angel watching over you. Everything's going to work out. It's like you've been blessed by a lucky star. You have nothing else to worry about, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Sounds like Mrs.
Yeah. So just to be clear with everybody, that is not the case if you join Self-Perfected, Technotutor, Destiny. Like you got to fucking work. And
it's like you have the opposite.
There's people
of a
who join
angel.
and don't do anything, and they're still fucking losers.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like instead of somebody else
not our fault
over you,
yeah,
to make sure everything works out perfectly, it's like You have to take on the entire fucking world and make sure everything works out perfectly.
You have to become God.
Yeah. Dude, I
Because
love
you are.
I love your version of divinity on earth because like it's kind of like listening to like Giant Steps and then listening to Corey Henry's version of Giant Steps. You know, it's like
What's that?
it's okay, it's like listening to a
Unrelatable.
song.
Go make
Sorry.
your own podcast.
You guys don't listen to Coltrane?
You guys don't listen to jazz?
I've listened to Giant Steps. Yeah, I actually.
Yeah,
hear
if you've
it
been to
quite
my house, you probably listened to it 30 times.
Okay, what I gotta add this playlist. Giant
Oh,
Steps.
That's
got
the
it.
one.
Oh,
See?
circle
You
of
know
bits.
You know it. See?
It's just a jazz song, and I guess
What's-
like somebody
what's the
Wait, hold on,
baby-
excuse me. Just a jazz song?
Sorry, let's just focus on that for the rest of the podcast about how important jazz is to changing the world.
Yeah.
What's the baby
you-
version of Giant Steps?
If you want to have a Christmas
Corey
party and
Henry.
not play Christmas music, just put on Giant Steps, the album. It's great background music too.
And then what was the one, Drake?
Corey Henry's version. It's completely different, but like it
But also, like,
yeah.
Let me give you an example as to why, like, the difference between Bernard's version versus the one I did. Because when I listen to it, and I don't know if everyone picks up on this, but when he talks about, actually, I don't know if this is the same audio or not. Does he talk about the physical universe is God in that audio? I can't remember. There's so many.
I don't know
right?
off the top of my head.
But I'll just give you an example, whether it's from that audio or not, doesn't really matter. But when he says, like, you know, the physical universe is God because every hair on your head is counted, but he doesn't explain what that means. He just gives that point. And it's like, if you have the vocabulary to understand what he meant, it's not about intelligence, it's just vocabulary. Like, I studied the Bible, I went to Catholic school. I know that one of the qualities of God is that every hair on your head is counted. What does that mean? And he actually kind of goes a little bit into what he means by it, but it's like, if you think about the physical universe, as the universe itself, is there any aspect of itself that it's not aware of? That's not existing. Like, every hair on your head exists, and there's a quantified finite number. I mean, I know it grows and falls out, but I'm just saying at any given moment, there's a finite number. So it's counted. And it interacts with all the rest of reality. So if you're saying that for God, every hair on your head is counted, that's just the physical universe.
This is
So he goes through some of the properties of God and shows, like, the physical universe is just that. Like, you're projecting it as this other being, like he's counting your hair. He knows of it. Like, he has a database. That the physical living database is the physical fucking reality itself. What were you going to say, Asif?
I was going to say, because David Coulon Pepe, he posted in a group, we're just on that specific point with it clicked a little bit more specifically, because he says, the elite do not do what they do out of their own free will. Neither do you exist as who you are out of your own free will. It's kind of like what you were talking about, how your opinions just come from your programming. You are part of the program design of God. That is why every hair on your head is counted, because in a program, for it to run effectively, there can be no errors in the code.
Yeah.
So the point is, it's like the specific design of, and like, what's the mechanism of programming in physiology? It's your DNA. It's not like, and that's the problem when you don't understand vocabulary. It's like what you're talking about of, like, people don't understand that they're part of groups. I didn't understand this initially too. It's like, if you don't have the vocabulary to understand all of the dimensions of the word group, then you won't understand that if you're just trying to be an individual, you're just fitting into the group of people who all want to be individuals, who all want to be separate from everything else. But how can you be separate from everything else?
Yeah, but you're also being
That's its
programmed by
own
Disney
fake
and
world. Exactly. Yeah. That's its own fake world that is cut off from the rest of the world. And you made your own little cult about, look, I'm just an individual. I can go after my own happiness, even if that's majority of the world. But that's the whole saying of, everybody says, doesn't everybody fucking say? It's like a stupid question now. Well, if everybody else was jumping off a bridge, jumping off a cliff, would you do it? And everyone's like, obviously fucking not. That's literally exactly what's happening right now.
Yeah, dude.
Audio that people should listen to is Advantages of a Pre-Programmed Design by Bernard. And he goes into this point about like a Tony Robbins type character as to why they have a resonance that gives them an advantage, right? The rock star, exactly, right? So I was talking with this guy the other night. That dinner I was talking about, before the dinner, there was a little like cocktail get together thing, and that's how I got invited to the dinner, was talking to people. And I was talking to this one guy, and I would say he's relatively pretty successful guy. He, without going into too much detail, he's worked with the Pentagon, CIA, NSA, like he's doing a whole bunch of stuff, right? And he's like literally my age within like 2 weeks. I was really interested. But anyways, we were chatting, and I was just obviously telling him a lot about Technotutor, but then like the basis behind it, the philosophy, that's really what I was focusing on. And I was making this point about, and I always test people, like when I'm talking to them, especially the more successful they are, I'm like, for example, you have some success. And I said, but there's certain things in your environment, your history, your genetics, and so forth that have supported you to do that. And it's not just you worked hard. It's not just this particular thing that's promoted as the key to success. And he was like, yeah, exactly. That's the survivorship fallacy or syndrome or something like that. And I was like, what do you mean? He goes, it's what you're saying. He's like, it's like if you study CEOs and you're like, every successful CEO slept on a blue couch when they were building their company. Therefore, the key to success is sleeping on a blue couch, right? And I'm like, yes, like I didn't have a word for it. He's like, oh yeah, that's like a known thing, right? And it's funny because I'm like, yeah, but so many people still, it's like when I was telling you about that other guy, Jim, that I know, and we were driving around on his property, and he was like, struggling is a key to survival. Being in survival mode is not a key to survival, it's key to success. Like being in that. And I was like, well, but billions of people are failing and struggling. He said failure too, right? And I was like, failing and struggling and in survival mode all the time, and they're never going to be successful. And he was like, yeah, you're right. So it's like, yeah, I failed, I struggled, and I failed a lot. And that was a key to my success. And it's like, no, it wasn't. I bet you could find an example of somebody who only failed a few times, and then like it just worked because of their programming, whatever. And it's like, no, they failed more. I would disagree. Like, I would say the person who works at McDonald's fails every moment. Like, what do you say? They're successful? Are they a failure or succeeding? Which one is it?
They're a failure.
Every day they wake up and they didn't do something to not work at McDonald's, they failed. Because the guy who got up and was like, no, I'm not doing this today, and they went to a seminar or whatever, like that person succeeded, right?
Yeah.
So who is the successful one? The one who continues to fail? Like if somebody literally had one experience where they just succeeded and then they became a billionaire, and like they created something where they just have billions of residual income all the time, you wouldn't be like, no, that person's not successful, they didn't fail enough.
You were like, think of
a
kid born into an elite family and they just get it handed to them.
Right. No, they're not successful. They didn't fail enough. And it's like, well, but they have what you want.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't.
Well, the person who got there had to fail a bunch. It's like, okay, is it really the failure that's the key? Right. So it was really cool talking to him because he was somebody I could see that was more open, that was like willing to say like, yeah, no, I realized like, and I had points in my history, and my mom always read to me, even though she was a single mom, but she read to me every night and so forth. Right. So it was cool to see that, because a lot of times people are not honest about it. And the reason I thought of that was because you brought up that point about David's post where Bernard was explaining, like, you're a part of the pre-programmed design of God. So a successful person in this world is part of the pre-programmed design. Now, I will suggest that we're not. Like, we're a part of it, but we're becoming successful because we're challenging it, and we have tools to change the programming. So we're just working at a different level in the pre-programmed design. So it's not that we're not programmed. We're changing our pre-programming to fit into a higher level of programming and so forth, so that we get to the highest level of the program. Like, we're like hackers, but we're not hacking. Because if you just hack, you'll never.
Reality hacking. Ooh.
I remember this one time, Bernard, like, we were at the farm and he did this whole long, he took us out to the barn, one of the barns. It was like showing us this washing machine. It was talking about how it kept not working. And there was something wrong with it. And he was like, okay, so we're going to take it apart piece by piece. We're going to lay it all out. And we're going to take all the pieces apart. We're going to be careful that we know which piece was, so we can put it back together. We're going to figure out why this thing keeps breaking down or whatever, right? And we're going to put it all back together, right? And I'm sure that audio exists somewhere. I heard it one time much later. Like I didn't listen to the whole thing, but I heard that part of it. I was like, oh, this is that audio. So I'll have to figure out where to find it. But after that, like later in the day, I was in the kitchen and he came up to me and he was like, we were talking about the washing machine. I'm like, yeah. He goes, I was just talking to you. No, he didn't say it like I was only talking to you like that. He just meant like I was talking to you. And I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, okay. But it's like he wasn't talking about a fucking washing machine. Because we never did that. No one ever took it apart. It wasn't the point. He was trying to explain, you need to take apart your fucking mind and yourself and understand all the bits and pieces and then reconstruct it so that it actually works. Because it was designed with flaws.
So what happened to the washing machine?
I think he bought a new one.
Money. So if you look at that point, like what's if you could describe God as one word, what would it be?
What's the context?
Like just generally speaking, if people say like, what is God in one word? Like
I would say responsibility.
I would say creator.
The average person would say creator. And I knew you were going to say responsibility as well.
But sure, but that's why I was asking context. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And so what the point that Cameron was saying about, I would suggest that we're not part of the pre-programmed design. To be more specific within that, it's like the pre-programmed design. In other words, the quote unquote, the creator of the pre-programmed design by definition is the thing that is defined as God is the thing that has put everything in place for things to function the way they are right now. So you taking responsibility for that and changing your pre-programming is becoming equal to God.
Yeah, and being God, I'm just going to rephrase what you said, but in another context. Being God, you're God to your children. And I don't just mean because they look up to you. I mean, you are responsible for them and who they become. Now, once they're adults, now it's up to them. But the thing is you're limited within it because you haven't taken responsibility as it, and we haven't taken responsibility collectively. So you're still kind of victim to your environment. But at the end of the day, you're deciding, are they going to watch this program? Are they going to do this activity? Are they going to eat this food? And obviously, the less you take responsibility collectively, the more those decisions are made for you.
Now, see, the problem with that is if you don't understand how it works, you will put them in front of the TV. And what you don't realize that you're doing is you're giving TV the permission to be God. You're giving media companies the permission to be God.
The elite.
So that's
why the elite know there's no God. So they're like, we'll just be God. And if you study the point of destiny and you learn about Anu, that's all Anu was. He was like, I know there's no God, and I see everybody else in existence is assuming there is. I will just be that. But he wasn't that in fact. You know what I mean? He wasn't actually, but he just got everyone to agree he
wasn't everybody else's God.
No, he couldn't take, because all he could do was create a system of slaves where he eventually became enslaved to it. If you study the history of destiny and so forth, you'll learn about that context. And people are like, well, I don't want to believe, I'm not asking you to believe anything. It's just going to give you context to understand what you believe is God, the reason why you call him Lord, and the reason why you say, I would be in heaven doing 500,000 Hosanna in the highest to his feet and all this shit. And like, I am his servant, is because that's literally what God is in the context of what you understand. It's like literally you're a slave. That's what it is. So it's going to give you that context to understand, oh, fuck, like that actually happened. Is it surprising at all? No, it's not.
And then the whole what heaven is, that takes on a whole new understanding too, at least for me.
Angels.
Yeah.
Like everyone has a guardian angel. Wow, really? Even the kid being raped. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
What's his guardian angel doing?
What does that imply?
Watching TV.
Guardian angel's like wasted, like fucking around.
He's like, I'm following my bliss, man. I don't have time for this. This is a different vibe.
He's like, I didn't choose this life. Fuck this.
He's like, everyone has free will, man. I can't stop this guy. What's the rapist's guardian angel doing?
He's like jerking off to it.
Why wasn't the rapist's guardian angel protecting him from being abused when he was young? Like, Imagine you believe you have a guardian angel. like with no evidence, first of all.
Your life fucking sucks.
And not
Yeah.
even questioning the implications of that. Like,
The
do
only
all
way
the
you
children
can
in
do that-
Syria and Afghanistan and so forth, they all have guardian angels?
The only way you can do that is by suppression.
It's just hope. That's all it is. It's just like a desire that like hopefully
And hope is always based on some kind of idea that things always work out. But when have things ever fucking worked out?
it's
And
just a desire, like a desperate desire for things to work out. That's what it is. It's like you're so fucking like I can't deal with this shit. You know, that you need for some, like you have to believe in something. And so you're like, guardian angel, yeah, great, thank you, some relief, you know. It's that the thing that everybody's looking for, like in their desires. We talked about this a few podcasts back, but whatever you desire, you're not even desiring that, you're just desiring escape from the pain that you feel, you know.
And it's like the thing is, you know, I realized this even before Technotutor, like people joining certain groups and feeling like, oh, because I'm part of this group, I'm taken care of. And then I look at the group and it's like, there's nothing for them there. There's nothing that's actually taking care of them. And their life is not improving and all that stuff. But as I'm reflecting really heavily on these points, you know, after this weekend, and we got some cool documents to read over and things like that, I'm like, wow, man, like it's even more hardcore now more than ever. People desiring to like escape everything and thinking that just because they're part of something, they're going to get some good feelings and be taken care of. But then I realize we're actually practically physically creating it.
Creating what?
That group where you actually have real support.
As long as you participate as an equal.
Yes.
So,
yes.
Okay.
Because you can't receive what you're not giving.
That point right there, okay? What it means that we're all equal, right? Because there was some confusion about this topic. I've just noticed amongst people. You're equal in value. You're equal as life. You should not be treated as less than just because you don't have money like other people do. But what that practically means in the context of what we're doing is, I'm trying to give a good example, but if you want to benefit from life, like for example, Mitchell does, then you have to be equal in the amount of responsibility that you're willing to take on to Mitchell, to be equal in results. Like you're equal in value, yes, but that doesn't mean that you're just going to get everything that I have, or you're just going to get everything that Cameron has and you just deserve it.
Well, we're still in a limited context system where you're not given to based on that. So in the context of the system we're in, we are playing the money game, the business game. And so when you become equal to that system, you will receive from that accordingly. But we also realize if we don't create other systems that make sure children from birth have proper nutrition, proper education support, their parents are supported properly, then things will only deteriorate in our society. But we're not in a position to give that right now. If I was, we would. But that's the whole point of what we're doing, is to put ourselves equal to the programming required to get to that level, to the point where now I'm being invited into higher and higher level circles of society. Why? Because my resonance is changing. Like, you don't go to a private, organization that produces high level politicians, and those people like invite you to dinner and ask you to apply to the group without them knowing unconsciously that you're one of them. From the perspective of, you are at the same level of responsibility. You don't make excuses like I don't make excuses. You have the vocabulary to do things at the same level as me. Like, it's like if you were walking down the street and you saw one of your friends and you invited them to dinner. Why don't you invite the homeless guy to dinner? Like, even the person who gives the homeless guy $5, why don't you invite him to Charlie's Steakhouse? Because you're like, well, he's going to smell like piss. And you know what I mean? And like, the people who are running the restaurant aren't going to let him in. Like, you can't. So how do you get to those higher levels? You use your Technotutor, you reprogram yourself, and you face the points and you push yourself. It's like going to the gym. I mean, there's like not a better analogy for it. You have to go to the gym, you know, and then you have to go to the competitions. You know what I mean? That's like going and actually like selling and building your actual business, not just using your Technotutor. You know, actually going out there and applying yourself and losing or winning or whatever it is. And when you get to the highest levels of society, then we can, as a collective group, make decisions, right? So the equality is, like you were saying, maybe we'll just make this really clear for everybody what we mean by that, as you're doing. Right? Everybody is from the same substance. You can't argue with that. And you know, it's challenging because people don't even know what substance means. Like, do you guys have a definition?
Substance.
Yeah.
Stuff. Dirt.
I'm in define. I'll do Google.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, definitely.
The real physical matter of which a person or thing consists.
Or a particular kind of matter with uniform properties.
Yeah, material of a particular kind or constitution.
What was that first one though? That was good.
The real physical matter of which a person or thing consists. And then an example is DNA is the substance of our genes.
So when I say we're all from the same substance, I mean I'm at the most fundamental level. There is an aspect of reality that we all come from. We call it source sometimes, right? But all physical matter, everything is the same substance.
Here's another definition: a particular kind or species of matter with uniform properties.
Yeah, well, it's like if like water is a different substance than lead or something like that, right?
Yeah.
But you're saying technically water and lead are also at the base. They're just substance.
Right.
They're the same substance. So it's like people will then take the word substance and spiritualize it and make it more than it is. Like, oh, we are from substance. It's like, we're from the same substance. What is that substance? You can't really put it into words because it's just the fundamental substance that we're all from, that we all are. So in other words, there is no like, oh, well, I'm created as a certain thing by God as a human being, and therefore I am different than an animal. No, you're not. You're from the same substance. You're just in a different form. It's like if I saw this really amazing vase and then I saw a really amazing pot, and I'm like, and they're totally different shapes. And I'm like, those are from the same substance. You're like, what do you mean? They're both from clay. Like, really? That one's like blue and white. It's like, well, they painted it, you know, and they've shaped it in a different way, but they're both just made of clay or whatever. So like a human being and a tree and a truck and a coffee mug are all from the same substance. They're just in different forms. And you can program matter and give it certain characteristics, just like you can program a robot. You can create a robot and program it, and then it can do new things that matter couldn't do before when it was just like metal and plastic and rubber.
The really cool part about Destiny is the articles that are written, the blogs that are written, the audios that are written, they will use words as what people are using the words for rather than what they think it means. So for example, if I'm using the word God to refer to the thing that creates stuff, it will like, I'm saying it, right? But the way the Destiny material is comprised is like, okay, cool. Let's look at what actually creates stuff in this world. Does that make sense? So people will say, oh, it's God, it's this thing. It's like, okay, but what are the characteristics that you're giving to this?
You mean they're using it in the actual definition of it, not all the opinions.
Exactly.
It's the same thing with the word design. That's used a lot in Destiny, like the design of this. And people think, oh, you're saying therefore it's God designed it. And it's like, well, yeah, but what do you mean by God?
Right.
Specific. So the word's like, I have a design. I mean, so does this mouse. It has a design. Like, So God created this? It was designed by a human being, clearly.
So, but see, within yourself, I know that you know that that's an act of God.
What do you mean?
Like,
As in, we're all gods.
as in, yeah, like that's just what people don't realize it, but it's just like, that's what you're talking about. It's like just creating something, or more specifically, creating yourself. Because we basically passed off the authority of God to something outside of ourselves, right? And we think that it's some benevolent higher power, not realizing that what you actually did in physical reality is you gave the power or responsibility or the capabilities of God to media companies, to app makers, to schools, to design and mold and create your child.
Mhm.
So now your
And
child's
why
going to
did we do
grow
that?
up. Now your child, real quick, like now your child's going to grow up and it's going to have all these problems. And certain people, they'll say, God, why did you curse me with this? Or God, why did you make him or her the way she is? Other people will just be like, that's just the way it is. Like when I first met Maylat, what she was saying was, you know, I don't have kids because you can do everything right and they'll still turn out to be assholes and murderers and all this stuff. I'm like, you don't think there's a cause for that? But I knew that within herself, it was because her parents are fucking assholes and they told her we did everything right and you're
still a piece of shit.
And I'm like, okay, cool. Once we remove that, I know that she won't have an issue with having kids because I know the human being. Everybody thinks that everyone's so unique and special, and if you have to respect her desires, if I respected her desires, she would be unhappy as fuck.
Mm.
And I can confidently say with absolute certainty, she's the happiest she's ever been in her entire life. No doubt. You can ask her, don't ask me.
Respecting someone's desires when the desires are from the people who were given the authority and power through abdication from the parents, that's where those desires come from. Like your desires are Disney's desires. Your desires are Coca-Cola's desires. Your desires are the government's desires. They're not your desires. When did you sit down and write out all your desires and why you have them and choose them? You didn't.
Your desires are to hurt yourself. Like,
yeah,
so
to abuse others.
Yeah. And so it's really fascinating. I was telling someone this weekend, like what I find really amazing about this group is that if you don't have the context for what we're saying, if you don't have the vocabulary, like you could get triggered by literally fucking anything, you know? But legitimately, we look into so many things. We've expanded our vocabulary so much that we can actually see the bullshit that's being pushed on everyone. And then we're just sharing with other people, hey, you're going to hurt yourself if you go down that path. And people don't like to hear that. But then if you actually spent time talking to any one of us, you would see like we genuinely care. Especially like more than like anyone that you think, like even those people that you think are really nice, they don't actually care. They're just like wanting you to feel good and wanting you to feel good about them. It's kind of like what Mitchell was saying earlier about how this guy wants other people to like him. And so they'll do whatever to make you feel good about them, but they don't actually care about where your life is going. Like that's the main difference, I would say, between us and anyone else, is that our purpose is that we care about life. Yeah.
So how then, Mitch has brought up this point and then Cameron's like, yeah, we should answer this point. Okay, Mitchell was mentioning the very, very fucking clear problems that are on this earth. How is what we're doing going to solve any of that? How is becoming part of team life going to have any effect on everything that's being created in this world?
Well, if you don't have the vocabulary to see the problem itself, well, that's a problem. So build the vocabulary so you can understand how things work. Like you can understand systems, you can understand how programming is happening every day from stuff like Disney and the media. And then because what we're doing is so brilliantly designed with both educating and the ability to be compensated for it, then we can acquire money, which is necessary to then change the system. So then we can systematically start to buy things up, such as media companies and real estate and event centers and all of that. So then we can start to influence the larger programming that's happening in society, because we live in a programmable universe. And right now, everyone's being programmed with fear and the vaccine and all that stuff.
Our prime minister just announced that all federal, public servants, basically like federal workers, have to get vaccinated.
It's like,
we should call it the sheep's milk.
The sheep milk.
Hey, we were thinking yesterday, because there's
drink the sheep's milk.
We have some friends over, some guys involved with Technotutor, and they're single, and we're like, oh, a self-perfected bachelor. I'm like, that would actually be a really great, like, I would watch that TV show. Like, that would be epic.
Like The Bachelor. Gotcha.
Yeah, well, I've never watched The Bachelor, but like, let's say you had like 3 guys and then a bunch of women, and they have like hidden cameras, and they're all like at a house, and they have to like figure shit out. That'd be hilarious to like watch that. But you can know its principles, and that's what I'm saying. Like, let's fucking buy media companies and create that. It'll be just as entertaining and better, and it's not gonna have all the weird spiteful shit. Yeah. So it's like we're gonna unlock this.
But it would actually show people like how to make decisions with purpose and principle, and they'd be like, "Oh, cool! They're sitting down,
they're like writing about it." And
they're actually looking at their compatibility. Yeah, he's like doing a word web, right?
and then one of the girls,
and then also they do fun things too.
Yeah,
like they go jet skiing, they have fun, like they do games and stuff. But it's like they're just having fun. There's no fucking measurement to it. It's just like that's fun.
I think you guys are better together.
Wait, say that.
I was just saying, like, you just see like the ladies like writing it out and doing the self-forgiveness on it, and then
like, I really think you and Jenny would be more compatible than us.
Yeah, I think you guys. I really like him, but if I go beyond my feelings and my self-interest, I think you guys.
And then we have a studio audience, and then like, yeah.
And then she gets like caked out with some cash dollars, because she deserves it.
You leave with a free copy of Technotutor.
Yeah.
Its value $1 million.
You just have to pay for the activation code.
And
what was I saying?
You're talking about the guy, the media companies and so forth.
Well, yeah. So we buy the media companies, and then we just keep growing. Like, there was one point I was gonna say, but then.
But here's the thing: like, we were talking about the kids and being God to your kids and so forth. And like you're bringing up the point, Asif, about like people. Well, it didn't matter what you brought up. People are going along with all this stuff, right? People are looking to feel good. They're wanting to escape. Blah blah blah. That's because they were programmed to think that way. Like we don't program our kids to think that way. We program them not to think that way. They know what Santa Claus is, but they don't believe that it's real.
Oh. You were making this point earlier, Cam, about like the adults saying they want the kids to have the magic or enjoy the magic or whatever, right? But like, until what age? Because nobody wants like an adult who's like still believing in Santa Claus. Like,
well, number one, I don't value that.
Right.
I don't value it. I'm not.
But I'm saying for the people, the people that do value it, like.
Totally.
Like there
so
are
when
adults,
do you want them to stop?
Right. There are adults
why do you
put
them in school then? Well, they need to learn that, there's real things and you can't just believe in magic all the time.
Okay, so which one?
Why did you fucking tell them this whole time there was magic? Why now you gotta like make them, oh yeah, actually there's science.
Right.
But then you're still gonna have magical beliefs about science.
Why'd you fuck them up in the first place? Like you started them, hey, run that way. Oh, sorry. You're actually supposed to go that way,
what also they don't realize is that, well, there is no magic. Like the parent actually believes there is a magic that they would be taking away from the kid. I'm like, wait, you still believe that there's magic? You were sold. Like, imagine a company comes along, they're like, we're gonna brand ourselves as like we create magic, and then we're gonna sell a bunch of people on have your kids do X, Y, and Z, and they'll experience the magic. And the parents are like, well, I don't want to not take them to Disney because they won't experience the magic. I'm like, that'd be like saying, I don't want to take my kids, don't take them to Disney because they won't experience the profit model of the company or something. You know what I mean? Like if you just put it into dry terms, you're putting emotional value on the word magic.
Mhm.
And you're just, and actually, who was I talking to? I think it was, I can't remember. I think it was the same person I was referring to earlier that was challenging me. And I was saying to them, like, why we don't take our kids to Disney. And like, because I was asking him, like, why would you want to do that? And he said this point of like, I don't want to take that away from him, right? And I was like, yeah, I hear that. Oh, it was more, I think it was the context of Santa Claus. Yeah. Santa Claus. And I was like, well, can I challenge you on that a little bit? He's like, yeah, sure. And I was like, what I find usually when I talk to parents is it's not that they don't want to take it from their kids. It's that they don't want to take that experience from themselves of their feeling of watching the kids open the presents. And I could see a point of recognition.
He agreed with you.
He did, yeah.
Explicitly. Yeah. He was like,
but they won't say that up front. It's like, oh, I don't want to take it away from my kids. Like, no, you're lying. You are abusing your child so you can have an experience. So that's what I don't value.
Yeah.
So, oh, you don't want your kid to have a fun experience? Dude. Like,
Max had fun pressing the elevator buttons. He doesn't need.
And then he figured out how to hold the door open with the button. And that was like
super funny.
But like yesterday, okay, so we just opened up the chicken coop, the chicken run, so the chickens can go in and out at will and they can be in the yard.
Nice.
So that wasn't happening before they were staying in the.
Oh, here's a technical question as someone who's looking to get chickens. At sundown, do they come back or do you have to go wrangle them in?
You gotta get them back in. What?
That was the only time I've ever seen you like stumped.
It was only because I was texting somebody.
Okay.
So I was doing two things at once. But I also had to think about it because I don't do it. I'm not the one responsible for it. I could if needed, but yeah. So and
wrangling
the other hesitation was we were told that the guineas will not go back in the coop, but Katie said it wasn't a problem to get them back in. And it's because she did everything of raising them with the coop and everything. A lot of people don't do that, and they try to get them in the coop later. But they're like, fuck that, I don't live in the coop.
You make it
so ours are used to living
in
safe
space.
Right. So they basically just hang out around the coop and eat the grass. It was pretty cool. Oh, the reason I brought it up though was because for like 2 hours of, and I only know that because I was kind of going around doing things and kind of going back and just because I'm walking around between the barn and doing stuff around the house for like 2 hours. It felt like Seneca was just out there at the chicken coop, like playing with the chickens, talking to the chickens. She like got a bucket out, like Max helped her open it of the chicken feed. And she was like scooping it and filling up their chicken thing, and like, she was just having so much fun. And then like later she's like, can I go play with the chickies? Because Katie got 4 more baby chickens and 2 baby ducks. And they're in like the incubator is the wrong word. There's a word for a brooder in like the air conditioning room with like a heat lamp. So they're separate. And we have the door locked because if we don't, the kids will like go in there. And the problem is not so much them being in there, it's that they might leave it open and they're not yet able to focus on that. And then remember always when they're not there to close the door. So she was like, can I go play with the chickens? Right. And I didn't want to do it because I like had other stuff I want to do, but she kept persuading me. Come on. I was like, oh, we can do it after dinner. And she was like, I really want to play with the chickens. And I could just see she really wanted to do it. So like, all right, let's go. So we go in there and she was so excited. She'd like pick up a chicken and she would go, oh, he's so cute. And put him back and then get a duck. Like, look, Cameron, it's a duck. Oh, he's so cute. And she would like, she just loves those animals. Right. So they have plenty of joy. And like, it's a real duck. Why would I want my child to like have to watch a cartoon duck to get joy and go visit Disney World and pay for all of it, which I don't have a problem paying for things, but it's like you're paying a lot to go to Disney World, I think. Well, Cameron, and the experience and everything.
We don't
like, we just have a real duck.
We don't live on a farm, okay? So we don't have just ducks and guineas and chickens. We can't all be as lucky as you.
There's so much farmland.
It's called build a business.
There's so much farmland. Yeah. Again, I don't care about your purpose. If you have my purpose, guess what I'm going to support you to do? Get some fucking farmland. So if anybody's like, well, it'd be nice to be you. I'm like, then just be me. Like, I don't care. Adopt our purpose.
But see, nice. that's
it is.
Like, the idea of lack is like only you can have what you have. Only one person. Yeah. That's why jealousy comes up, right? It's like you get jealous of that person who can.
And meanwhile, Bill Gates buys up 200,000 acres. because you're like, well, I can't do it. I'm like,
Bill's like, all right. He's like, in fact, you
Cool.
know what? Bill's like, you know what you should do? You should become a minimalist. They're like, oh, I can do that. I can give up everything. You're like,
I
okay,
posted
sweet,
this
more farmland.
And give
I
it to
posted
me.
this video about why they buy up the farmland. Did y'all see that?
Yeah.
No.
There was like a guy they talked about in there who has more farmland. I missed the part where they said like, is it global or whatever? Because it seemed like they said Bill Gates was like the number, huh?
Was it Joe Salton?
I don't know,
No.
but there was one guy they talked about who has 2.2 million acres. Like Bill Gates only has like 200,000. And like, I remember they were like doing a quick little shot of like an interview with him. And he was like, well, you know, it's just really nice to be able to live on a farm. And he was like giving all the, and I'm like, dude, you don't live on 2.2 million acres of farmland. Like that's the reason why you have it. They didn't give any other reason. Like, because we want to fucking industrialize farming and like, fuck all you people. Like they didn't talk about any of that. It was just more like, oh, it's very valuable to own farmland. Like they didn't give any of the real deal behind it. And the guy was like, yeah, I mean, living on a farm and being able to wake up and have chickens and stuff. I'm like, yeah, right, dude. That's not why you have 2.2 fucking million acres. Like that's not the reason. Like
I just want to be
10 acres,
surrounded
40
with
acres,
chickens
100 acres, maybe.
all the
but-
time. Chickens everywhere. Chickens as far as the eye can see. Millions of acres of chickens.
Imagine waking up and walking into your football-sized stadium warehouse with 50,000 chickens in cubicles. You're like,
And you're sucking them dry, sucking the eggs out
oh,
of
this one's a male. Put it in the grinder. That's what they do, man.
Yeah,
like
as
they
soon as
like
they
check
can
the
sex
gender,
it.
they throw it in the fucking grinder and it just gets ground up.
Yeah.
Chicken
Yeah.
nuggies.
Delicious.
They call it a happy meal. And it's like the most suffering that exists on this planet. Oh, I remember when we went to the farm in South Africa,
so good.
and there was a certain point where we would wake up. They gave us something to drink. 2 hours later, we woke up.
And then there's a certain point where we woke up.
What I meant was every morning we would wake up and go feed the horses. But there was a certain point when we were there where I started noticing this, which I didn't notice it before. I don't know if it's because of the season or whatever, but at a certain point I recognized we would go there early in the morning. And as the sun's rising, it starts to get light outside. You know how that is. And then I'd start to hear this like screaming, like thousands of voices, like screaming, like they're being murdered. Like I'm not exaggerating. Like imagine what that would sound like from
Human
far in the
voices?
distance. No, but it sounded like that.
Uh-huh.
Like just screaming, like a murderer is chasing you or something, right? And I was like, what the fuck is that sound every morning? And they're like, oh, there's a pig slaughtering factory over there somewhere.
Mm.
And like I mean, can you imagine going to work there? I mean, I can, but I'm saying, imagine it. Like every morning you wake, and as soon as you drive up, they know you're there, and all the pigs start screaming, like straight up, like they're going to be murdered, and they know it.
Near Mitchell's house, there's a cow. There's a bull.
Yeah, I heard about this bull.
Oh, dude.
I think we need to do is get
work.
Justin down there.
She,
Shout out Justin Briggs.
Yeah.
yeah. Wow. Yeah. I forgot Justin's the bull whisperer. No, so they came by the other day.
The ball whisperer.
Yeah.
Oh,
And,
that's a ball in my face.
And they're like, yeah, Noble's out in the field. They're like, we wanted to tell you, like Noble's out there free. We're like,
Oh, really?
yeah. So Noble's in, mating time,
Nice.
having a blast. Because you can hear him now.
He's
His
been
sounds are
brushing up on
different.
all this pickup artistry.
Yeah. Yeah. Otherwise, when he's not in mating season, he's over there watching videos on the Machiavellian pickup tactics. No, it's interesting. I would like walk on my front door on this deck, and then every once in a while you'll hear a cow. Sometimes you'll hear a horse too. It's pretty cool. There's also chickens and stuff. But it's definitely a different sound coming out of Noble.
It's a
Noble's
sound
the
of
name
pleasure.
of the bull. Was that?
The sound of pleasure.
Yeah.
Is it
As
like
opposed to
oh.
the sound of frustration and
Yeah.
angst. Now he's like, "Mm." But maybe it's the
He just
female
wakes
cow.
up and it's like, yes.
Yeah. He's like, I'm feeling good now. Yeah, it's fascinating. See, so now I'm looking at that because I've been watching a lot of videos on the farmland as well. And I see like a mile away, there's a field. I don't know how many acres it is, but I'm like, oh, I'm now getting this, why you would want to start buying up all of this stuff, because it's going to be really valuable in the future. I'm still maybe 6 months to 12 months away from doing that type of thing, but it's really cool. Like that's now dream building for me. I'm not like, oh, I have to go to I'll still drive through the nice neighborhood. It's awesome. But
just
now it's
driving
like,
around farms.
farmland.
Yeah. Hey, Mitch, did we talk about, because I don't remember if we talked since coming back from your place. Oh, but we did talk about like basically how eating locally is really something that people don't do
Oh my
anymore.
gosh. All you people who are all into avocados, I'm guilty of this myself. I still love avocados and guacamole. Just look at this. Next time you see your avocados, right? And instead of feeling bliss, realize that the drug lords in Mexico and wherever else they grow avocados literally run that whole thing. And because there's such a demand, because there's all these memes about avocado toast and all this shit, now, because it's not natural for me, for example, in Minnesota, where we can't grow avocados, it's not natural for us to have avocados. We get our fat in a different way, which is basically lard from animals. So this whole idea of like, oh, I'm going to be vegan and have quinoa. Okay, quinoa, it's good. I have some in my cupboard, but now I'm aware of this. So I'm going to think twice before getting it again, if I can just get something else that's local, like wild rice. And in Peru, they've grown quinoa forever. And the people there, they're based on their genetics and everything, they've adapted to benefiting from eating quinoa. Well, now there's such demand in the US, at least, for quinoa that the local farmers can't afford it. So now they can't even eat the food that they need to be sustained. So now it's having a serious problem in themselves and their kids because of nutritional deficiency. So think about that when you're out there on your health craze of like, oh, well, you got to just do this and this. It's like, we're all interconnected. And because we have such low vocabulary, back to this other point, it's like we don't even see how we're co-creating this system of suffering and abuse. So that's, again, why Technotutor, raising your education, being able to understand these problems. Now I use Technotutor. I'm growing local food. We want to have enough food where we can feed our neighbors. And so it's like, that's TT. That's why more vocabulary is the answer, not following some health craze.
Yeah. What else is really interesting about that, the health craze point specifically, it was started by and propagated by the One World Bank, where they decided that you need food from across the world. And so you need to be eating these superfoods.
Oh yeah, it's like a globalization point.
Yeah. Exactly. And so then you stop eating the food that would be best for you locally, that you would already have access to, that you can not worry about like, where am I going to get this nutrient?
Plus it's in the same environment. So it's going to be more what you need in a way, right?
Exactly. And you don't have to rape the soil to get it, right? Like in mass quantities.
I shouldn't be fucking my dirt every day.
That hole in the ground is not for that, Cameron.
My neighbor's like, you really need to fill up those holes with that dirt you have over there. I'm like, no, I'm good.
Wait, why does all this smoke just come out of your land?
It's like, do you have woodpeckers that peck on the ground? I'm like, yeah.
There's a little woodpecker. Yeah. But the vast majority of people aren't even aware of that, right? And that's part of like the vocabulary. Like, okay, not only are you not aware of it, you can't even comprehend or understand why that's important. Like when you hear, oh, the One World Bank, like as soon as I heard that, I was like, holy fuck. Like as soon as Cam just heard it, he was just like, oh, globalization. It like immediately had the context for it and everything, right? Which means then you can see why that would be a problem. And then you can work towards real solutions versus what the average person is doing is they're believing in magic. They're believing in like something else is going to take care of it, or this is just the way the world is. This is the way that it has to be. I'm not responsible. Put the kid in front of the TV or send them to school, let the school be responsible for them. And you just posted about Common Core, right? You posted a video speaking about Common Core, and the teachers were saying, okay, they want everybody on the same standard or whatever, but then they completely throw out our curriculum and say, here, now teach this brand new thing you've never seen before that no one has any understanding of. And then we expect all the kids to be at a higher level. That if you have a brain, you know that doesn't work. All the parents in all these districts and everything, as soon as Common Core came out, they're like, this doesn't fucking make sense.
Dude, and I've been a tutor for a long time. They're acting like the standards weren't enough, but nothing changed in terms of what people were learning. It was just how it's being taught.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like, oh, now we're going to make sure everyone learns fractions at second grade. Everyone was already doing that, or whatever the age. You know what I'm saying? Like, it wasn't like, it wasn't like anything fundamentally changed in terms of actual standards. The only difference was they made the standards so detailed and specific that now you have to teach in a different way the same fucking material. That's all it was. Like, oh, no one was learning algebra in high school. Oh, sure. Okay. Like everyone was fucking learning algebra in high school. Whether they were learning or not is a different question, but it was being taught. You know what I mean? Everyone was taking algebra 2 as a junior or senior. Like so nothing changed from that perspective. And I went to school pre-Common Core.
That's really
nothing.
late.
So what actually changed from pre-Common Core to Common Core?
All that really changed was like, okay, if I'm going to teach you how to add 3-digit numbers, you know how you would normally do it? You put a vertical sum, you would just add down, carry the 1, and so forth, right? Now it's like, okay, you have this box with different columns, and then you like have numbers here, and you put circles there, and you add those up, and then it's like way more complicated. So it's almost like it's going to make it so there's no fucking way you need the standard. And the teachers don't understand it. And so what happens also is it breaks the trust of the parent and the child, because the child takes the homework home, and the parent's like, look, that's not how, we didn't learn that stuff in school. Like you guys are on some futuristic shit. Like we just learned it this other way. So now the kids are like, oh, my parents are fucking retard. They're still in the past. So when the parent says, yeah, we didn't learn about all this Black Lives Matter, critical race theory, they're like, oh yeah, it's because you're a fucking idiot, because you didn't even know how to add 3-digit numbers. You see what I'm saying? It breaks in that trust of the parent.
Ooh, that was a really good
preparatory
connection.
phase.
Yeah.
Big brain.
Big brain. See, there's vocabulary for you, right? And so that's why, number one, education. And not just education as far as like going to school. We talk about school, we shit on school a lot, but that's not education. That's why we shit on it, because it's like obvious. But education in how our society functions, how what is life, who you are, knowing yourself, like how relationships work, how your children are learning things and understanding things, like all of that is education that you should know that you didn't learn. And I know you didn't learn it because like we all did very well in school, right? And like I didn't learn that shit. Cam didn't learn that shit. Asif, no.
We were exposed to it, but we didn't learn it. And Asif was valedictorian.
Yeah. And there's a big difference between being exposed to something or memorizing something and actually learning it.
They're like, oh, you learned it because you sat in the class and you got an A. It's like, but okay, so do it now. I was just thinking about this the other day. Like, imagine like you got Obama talking about we need to raise the standards and blah, blah, blah. And you're like, okay, real quick, I'm going to give you a algebra 2 test, and I want you to identify from the equations these different conic sections and graph them. Do you think he could take a formula for a hyperbola, complete the square to put it in standard form, take that information and graph it?
No.
But he was the president. There's no fucking way. I know 100%. And I know his husband couldn't do it either. And yet he's the president of the United States. And he's acting like we need to raise the standards. And it's like, but that's all you're trying to do is get them to like take a standardized test to show they can do that and then forget it. Right. They don't even know why that's the equation. Dude, why it produces this particular graph.
The word adjacent, right? I've seen 10th graders, which I think is like 15, 16 years old, right? They don't even know what that word is. Like oh, dude, I was talking to a former teacher about
Still listening,
math.
guys.
Yeah, I was talking to a former teacher about math and just telling her how, like, it's crazy. The kids in high school don't know all these terms. There's all these vocabulary terms that you have to know for math. And she was like, oh yeah. And over the last years, it's become more vocabulary based, where even in middle school, like they have a book that's called Math is Easy. Math is Easy, right? But she was saying how they've taken all the math concepts, addition, subtraction, etc., and they've turned them all into word problems. So now the one thing that, like, the ESL kids, English as a second language, the one thing that those kids could do, math, even though they didn't know English, now they can't even do that because everything's a word problem. Fuck. Right? Wow. And the kids all call the book Math is Not Easy because nobody gets it. Right? So you could have been that kid who was like, oh, I'm really good at math, but I struggle with reading or whatever the fuck it, some kids, that's what they would say. But now you can't even do that. Now if you suck all around. Right? But then it really goes to show that point that what we've been saying, everything is vocabulary based.
I've got a audio from Bernard I'll share with you guys sometime, maybe in November when you come down, because I think it's one of our private ones where he talks about this point about math. And he says math is all vocabulary. And one of the points of evidence of that is that children rarely struggle with the actual sums and so forth. It's always the word problems, which was always my experience as a tutor. Because like they would always have trouble with when you get to, obviously other things too, but one that was kind of universal was compounded interest and things like that. Those kind of word problems, because it'll say something, the math itself is very easy, but it'll be like, Johnny's investing, he's got $5,000. He wants to put a certain amount of it at 10% in this CD and a certain amount of it at 5% return and this other thing and this bond or whatever. And if he wants to make this much return per year or next year, how much should he put into each account and so forth or whatever, right? And they're kind of like, the math is not very fucking hard. It's really not hard, but they're like lost because they don't have the context for like, what the fuck is a bond? Like, what does it mean to get interest on that? Like,
what's a CD? Is that thing that my parents use in the radio sometimes?
And I remember I had this client who, the Technotutor client actually, but who manages like some like big accounts for like multi-billion-dollar hedge fund. And I remember we were just having a conversation one time. We were talking about why the wealthy are so wealthy. And he was like, because they understand compound interest. And that was one of the first things Bernard told me when we started getting serious about building a business. He was like, you need to understand compound interest. That's how you get rich, right?
That's how you build a bridge?
That's how you get rich and build a bridge. Oh. But the point being that that's one thing they just gloss over real quick in school. They don't teach you that. So it's almost taught in a way where you're like, fuck that is.
Well, what's the point?
I remember the interest problems. Yeah, it was like the really hard part of math. I'm like, it's actually really easy.
Like, what's the point of putting things into word problems? It's to see if they can actually apply math to real life.
Yeah.
Well, obviously, it's the whole fucking point of math.
Yeah.
And
what happened to you, by the way?
Huh? I'm trying to put my feet up. It's like there's like a windowsill all the way over there, so I have to like really stretch for it.
You're just like suddenly ahead.
Yeah. But yeah, it's like I remember there was like 4 parts of a test. I don't know how it is there, but there was like the communication part, the application, the something, and the thinking section. And the thinking section, there's always like 1 or 2 challenge questions, and everybody would fail that fucking part. But it almost became like a bonus thing.
It was always the part where you had to think.
Exactly. It was the only part that was like, okay, prove that you actually know what the fuck you're doing.
Right.
Like take this formula and apply it in a situation. No one could ever get it. That was the measure of whether or not you could do it. you know.
Okay, let me give you guys an example. I've told y'all this story before, but I'll tell it here. Hold on, let me just type it in real quick.
We're gonna do some math.
Actually, yeah. So Drake, you can't really answer this. I don't know if you've tutored much calculus, but if you know the answer, don't answer it correctly. But let me ask you guys, like, what is a limit? And I'm not asking for a math answer. I'm just asking, like, what is a limit?
The maximum or minimum something can go.
Okay, that's it.
I was saying a boundary.
A boundary, okay. So if you look it up, obviously the verbatim definition from Google is a point or level beyond which something does not or may not extend or pass. A restriction on the size or amount of something permissible or possible. And there's more detailed context point, right? And so I'm not going to read the Google definition of limit for math, but I'm going to use the Wikipedia one because
because you donated.
Okay, so
you donated to Wikipedia, you want to make sure you support them.
Yeah, no, but I mean, it has the actual mathematical definition versus like a Google trying to give you the idea. But let me give you the setup first. So I took a course in multivariable calculus, which I had taken multivariable calculus previously. But I went back to university many years after I was done with university because I wanted to test Technotutor in the context of being a university student and see what that was like, right? Because I was already a pretty smart person. And I'm like, but what could I do with this if I had this, right? And short answer to that is I was the top student in every single class, right? But first day, multivariable calculus, my teacher, my professor is this guy who created the mathematics journal at the university many years prior. He was a distinguished mathematician for the NSA. Okay, smart fucking dude, right? Old guy. And his name was Gordon Johnson, if anybody wants to look him up. He might not still be alive. I don't know. I hope so. He's a pretty cool guy. Anyways, he was the one teacher where he had like the low rating on Rate My Professor because people would complain that like he didn't teach. And the guy that just made you memorize everything from the book, everybody loved that guy. Because he just straight up told you, like, do this, here's how you work out this problem. And the test would just be that problem that he worked out. And I got I got such a high score, like 104% in that class. He told me not to take the final. So I could do that too. And then when I went to this other class, it was like, he's actually going to make you figure shit out. Total different, like 180. So this guy, Johnson, did I say Gordon Johnson?
Yeah, you did.
I think that's what I said. I think that's his name. Anyways. Maybe it's Gordon Ramsay. So we're in this class, right? Day one, my first class with him. He says, we're going to have a pop quiz. Okay. And we're like, uh-oh, okay. All right. He hasn't even taught us anything yet. All right. And the quiz is like, what is a limit? What is an integral? Bunch of questions from first and second semester calculus. Okay. So we all give our answers. Okay. So I'm going to give you the definition mathematically of what is a limit. And this is what I wrote on my test, or on my quiz, right? Where is it? The limit is the value that a function or sequence approaches as the input or index approaches some value. And so you would have this symbol, and I can't really show it to you guys, obviously, but you can look it up, limit in mathematics in Wikipedia. And when you read this little symbol, you read it as the limit of f of x as x approaches c equals L. L will be the limit. Okay, so for most people, they're like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. But here's the key word. The limit as x approaches c, okay? So we all write the answers, and some people probably messed it up, or some people got it perfect, some people got it close, whatever. So he's Mr. Code. I see you wrote here, the limit as f of x approaches c. What do you mean as it approaches c? And I was like, well, as it gets closer to it, right? And he was like, closer how? Like, are we talking about physical distance? Like it's like an airplane approaching a runway, or what do you mean? I'm like, well, it's approaching, like it's moving towards it. He's like, but how does a number move towards another number? And I'm like trying to give the answer, like, well, but like it's getting closer. It's moving towards it. And he's like, but how? How is it moving? Do numbers move? And I'm like, well, no, but like, what the fuck is this guy? And if you're not understanding what he's doing, you're going, doesn't this guy understand what a limit is? Like, he doesn't fucking understand. Like, he gets closer to it. What do you mean? But then that was when I had this moment of realizing I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. Because I'm using words that, well, but yeah, how does a number approach another one? Like, what does that mean? And he was exposing us initially to the idea that these things are defined very specifically, and the words have different meanings in math than they have in normal language. And if you just memorize it and you don't understand it, you're going to be fucked. Because, and he told us a story. He's a good salesperson. He told us a story. He's like, when I was at the NSA many years ago, we had a problem. We had a satellite. That flat Earth guy that was trying to be in the group, he's not going to want to join us now because I'm talking about satellites. Remember that guy? You shouldn't call it a global hangout because the Earth is flat. And I'm like, okay, it's a flat hangout, whatever. Anyway, so he's like, they have this problem. They have, I'm assuming it's some kind of reconnaissance satellite. I don't know, but it's a satellite, and as it moves over, there's a specific place, a specific point it has to beam data down to. And he's like, the problem was it wasn't hitting the target. And they had to figure out why. And he was like, so we had to work on this problem. We had several teams working on this problem, and we had to present our solution. And then they were going to invest millions of dollars or whatever it was into that solution. So number one, it has to be right. Number two, you have to be able to explain it to everyone else so they can understand that it's going to work, and they can also poke holes in it. You have to be able to defend it and figure out the solution. So you can't go, okay, here's the answer, right? They're going to be like, we don't know. You tell us, is it right? And you have to know. So when you would go to him and you'd be like, so what he would do is, this is how the class would go. He'd have a whiteboard like Mitch has there. Or no, it was not a whiteboard, it was those chalkboards that are all over the wall. And he would write down, I guess they were maybe whiteboards, but chalkboards, whatever. He would write down a definition of a term, limit, sequence, function, whatever. Probably we didn't start with limit. We probably started with function. No, we started with the word point. What is a point?
Wow, a coordinate.
What is a coordinate?
A point on a function. When the variable and the output of the input and the output of a function is defined. I don't fucking know, dude.
No.
The output of a function with a.
Do you know what a set is?
Right?
Okay, but a set is just a collection of objects. It could be anything. It could be a collection of numbers. It could be a collection of objects. It could be a collection of elements. A set is the set. We can't define set because you know what the fuck a set is, and we can't define it without making it recursive.
Cameron, let me just be clear. I got the math award, so you know I'm retarded. So
right. Yes. A set is a collection. What's a collection? It's a set. I mean, you know what a fucking collection. So at a certain point in math, you're like, you know what it is, okay? It's just what it is. Okay, fine. A set. So a point is
because I said so.
A
God
point
made it that way.
A point is a set of. Actually, what do they say? It's an ordered pair of numbers.
That doesn't take space.
Where there's a first, no, it's not about that. There's a first number and a second number.
That's a point?
Yeah.
Say it again.
A point is an ordered pair, a set of ordered number pairs. An ordered number pair. A pair of numbers in a certain order. I'm just using different ways of saying it. Where there's a first number and a second number. That's it.
Damn.
So think about what that means. A point is just two numbers where one is the first number and one's the second number. And you can write it a certain way with parentheses and a comma in between and so forth. That's what it is. Everything else is a representation of it.
Jesus Christ.
You see? So he would even define what a graph is based on what a point is and based on all this specific points, like very defined information. So then you would build upon that. So now what is a function? A function is a set of ordered number pairs where no two pairs have the same first number.
Right.
That's it.
And that's a function?
It. Yeah. That's it. But when you learned a function, they were like, well, it's like an input and an output. And it's like, what is really like putting something in?
Yeah.
It's like, well, it's like a process and it takes one number and turns it into, it doesn't do any of that. That's how you're visualizing.
Is a set of ordered numbers where no first
order number pairs, because a point is an order number pair. So you could say it's a set of points if you know what a point is. It's a set of order number pairs where no two numbers have the same first number.
Where no two numbers.
You guys remember the vertical line test?
Yeah.
So if you had 2 points vertically, why? Because they have the same first number. They have the same X value. That's not a function.
Right.
A relation is a set of ordered number pairs. It doesn't have that same stipulation that makes it a function. But now it makes perfect fucking sense. Now you can visually represent that. It's like, it's just data. It's numbers. It's sets of numbers. And a function is just the set of those ordered pairs. So you have a number from this set and a number from that set, and they're paired up. So a function can be 1 point. It could be 2 points as long as they're not down the same first number. But it makes things, so when I would tutor, at that point, I would tell kids, like, do you know what a function is? And they're like, oh, it's like, you have an input and an output. I'm like, no. What's a point? And they'd be like, it's like a coordinate. You're like, no. Okay, let's talk about what it really is. And they would have a hard time going, that's all. Like, so it's, and then I would be like, like the vertical line test. They're like, yeah. I'm like, that's why it makes sense. They're like, oh. Because they have all these images that represents what it is. They don't know what it is. But I've just defined it in very precise language for you. So he would write, a point is this, a function is that. And then he would have a few definitions. He would write a question. Can you have a function that has 2 points with the same number? I mean, he wouldn't ask that stupid question, but if you did, you'd be like, no, why? Because a point is this, and a function is a set of those points, and therefore it is a contradiction. You'd have to find a way to logically prove the statement or not. And obviously, as the year progressed, we're proving everything in calculus ourselves.
Wow.
So we only got to like gradients by the end.
Was that like
we weren't even doing like line integrals, or we barely scratched the surface of multivariable calculus, but we learned how to think mathematically. Because you can go study that shit on your own. But whenever you would solve, he would write a few questions and he'd be like, who wants to solve that? And then present to the class when you're done. And then the next day he would talk a little bit, give some context, put some new definitions. And we would mostly not talk about what we were doing in class until someone was ready to present. And I remember one day he went on the chalkboard because there wasn't anything to talk about. And he started drawing some lines, and he was like, asking us about like, can you have, like, how would something exist in more than 3 dimensions? And he was like, would it be at like right angles to each other? And like how, he was like trying to get us to think about things existing in multiple dimensions. And like Katie and I talked about it later, and we were like, I think this dude was like working on UFO technology or something, like, because he was asking these very specific questions about like things existing in multiple dimensions, and I don't know. And then also I remember him telling us that he had a friend in Florida actually who was working on quantum computers. And I was like, was it this company? He was like, I can't say.
It wasn't me. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, it wasn't Drake. But anyways, it was a cool guy, but smart guy. But if you asked him, okay, I solved the problem, is this right? He'd be like, and then I'm like, well, okay, but, and then he would ask you a question like, well, what do you think about that? Like, why do you say that? He would just ask, you would never tell you the answer. That was a guy who was preparing you to think mathematically, but no one wanted to take his class except for the few people like Katie and I who were like, this is cool. So I took every class I could with him because I'm like, dude, this is fun. Like, I like getting up in class and arguing. I wasn't very good at math because I just wasn't wanting to become a mathematician. So he was like, you should go to law school. He's like, you'd be really good, right? Because he could see I like to argue. I could find logical points, but I wasn't interested in math. I wasn't going to be a mathematician who sat in a fucking lab all day working out equations, trying to solve problems. He totally knew I wasn't interested in that. Right? Why did we get on that topic?
We're talking about vocabulary.
I want to show you guys a picture real quick. It'll take a moment to focus. You're not going to be able to see all the words and stuff, but I took this last night. We'll see if it focuses.
Well, I mean, you can see it's pretty fine print.
That's like a book I would read.
Right?
Yeah.
It's one of the Chronicles of Narnia books.
That's cool.
And when you read it, they're relatively high vocabulary, actually, because I don't remember reading it except when I was a kid. So as I'm reading them again, I'm like, oh, wow. So I'm reading my other land book, and it's like kind of winding down time. We've already read all the kids' books and everything. And Max was like, read this book to me. It wasn't that book. It was a different book. And I was like, no, like you could read that yourself. He's like, I want you to read it. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll read it. So I read like some kid's book. And then I'm like, I'm going to read now. So just lay down, relax, right? So he goes over to the stand to get some water, and then he sees the Narnia book and he picks it up and he takes it back. So as I'm reading, he's just over there, and I look over. For a while, he was just reading. Right. And then after a while, he like closes it up, puts it down, and then just like lays down and falls asleep. So I took that picture because I mean, that was him doing that on his own, totally 100%. And there was plenty of other kids' books and stuff. He didn't have to read that particular book. But I'm watching him read, and then I'm watching him, and he's like, he'll be like reading and be like, he'll like start smiling and stuff as he's reading. Right. He's, guys, podcast people, he's not even 5 years old.
It's so cool.
Not
So
even.
cool.
Oh, and actually, after he put the book down, before he fell asleep, he goes, what was it he was specifically referring to? He said, I'm gonna make, because now we went to the hotel, right? So he's like talking about the hotel he's gonna build. Then he goes, if I had a hotel that had 90 floors, and then I made 10 more floors, how many floors would that be? And I go, what do you think? He goes, 100, right? And then I'm like, you're right, I agree. He goes, if I had 999 floors, and then I had one more floor to it, if I had one more floor, how many would that be? And I was like, 1,000. He goes, correct, like that. He goes, correct. So he's sitting there doing the word problems, making them up himself right there. Right? That's just
something practical.
No,
right.
He's like, I want to build the biggest hotel. He's like, it's going to have 90 elevators. It's going to have 10 lobbies. He's like figuring out what he's going to do, right?
Wow.
40 ice cream stores. Right? Yeah.
He's very focused on the lobbies and the elevators.
Yeah.
It's got to have a lot of lobbies.
I just remember it being like, I don't know, midnight or something when Avery, but it was after the dinner. And then Max's face was red. He was sweating because him and Maylat were just running up and down the halls
Oh, yeah.
of like 4th floor. And it was so funny because we're like, okay.
This was after steak dinner, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're like, let's just go to the 10th floor and then go back down. He's like, no, floor 5. And I
We wanted to go through all the floors up and down and like run down the hallway of each one. And what's cool, if you watched him, he was going and checking the numbers to see if it was like the same pattern on every floor. He would go and look and he'd be like, okay, and then he'd come back. Yeah. People have no idea what's possible. And like you guys, your kids will go even beyond.
Mhm.
Right. But they'll have another child who's like kind of gone through the process and then can be sort of a mentor-ish, but like kind of, you know, a peer, but a little bit ahead. So it'll be really cool. But I mean, fuck, like the point about math, it's funny because people are like, oh yeah, it's vocabulary because of the word problems. It's like, it's all vocabulary. If you could say a word to represent the symbol, it's vocabulary. If it's a symbol, it's vocabulary. It has a meaning. It's like, what the fuck do you think vocabulary means? Oh, I thought it meant like fancy words or some shit. You know, it's like, no, it's just actual just words. The words that you use, the things that you understand, your beliefs, your opinions, all that stuff is your vocabulary. What you're able to do, what you think is possible, what you can conceive of, it's all your vocabulary. And you can change that word by word. You can add to it, you can remove definitions, obviously not without Technotutor, but I'm saying you can actually change that, increase it, right? And what our system has perfected is getting the parents out of the picture and programming children with a certain vocabulary set, so they are always just hoping for something. So anybody who presents themselves as an authority, the future adult will just go along with it and they won't question it. And then if you connect the dots, they'll say you're a conspiracy theorist. It just seems like a conspiracy because you can't see. Like, what's the alternative? It's like if everything that has a negative effect in this world, and I connect the dots for you, it's a conspiracy theory. Then the alternative is you think everything just happens randomly. That's only possible if you think there's a God or there's evolution or there's these things that just are behind the scenes, just direct everything. And everything we're doing is random. Was it a conspiracy theory that Apple or that Steve Jobs created Apple? What if I was like, guys, you know, this phone you have, it didn't just exist. Like these two guys got together and they created this machine, And they went around and they got their friends to like start helping develop it. And then they got other people to start adopting technologies that would work together. And you're like, it's a conspiracy theory. Like,
Yeah.
well, yeah, I mean, they did coordinate their effort together.
They conspired.
They did conspire.
Yeah, to create that. Yeah.
But when you find out that conspiracy theory was literally a term coined by the CIA to specifically label anything that would connect the dots as, oh, don't look at that. Just like the word cult, it's the same thing. It's like, well, how do you guys feel about people thinking you're a cult? I'm like, who cares? How do I sell Technotutor? How do I sell Self-Perfected? How do I sell these things if people think it's a cult? I'm like, just ask them why they think it's a cult and like talk to them. Like, how do you sell anything?
Yeah.
Like, how do people sell Apple when people think Apple's a cult? Because people do.
They don't care.
Yeah.
They're like, cool, that's actually good. Join.
Yeah. Join the app.
Whatever.
Buy 10 products.
Yeah. Buy another one next year.
Yeah.
What else?
I think what people underestimate, which we'll talk about again someday, over and over again, like we
Or
already
not.
have.
Or every time.
Yeah, either we'll never talk about it or talk about it every time.
Yeah.
It's
Or we've
just
already talked about it.
what if I could summarize like our experience at the gin event, it was just like what we do every single time we're together.
Mhm.
Hang out.
Right. But it was like, now there was like a much bigger group.
Yeah. And what bliss is, what happiness is, it's having all your basic needs met. Having good people around you who you can trust, and getting pizza when everybody gets hungry, and having waters for everybody. I never seen canned water before that wasn't sparkling. That was very
It was
interesting.
weird. Look good.
Yeah. And so the point there is like, start with yourself, become emotionally stable enough that you can provide an income for yourself where you're taken care of, and then expand that out to a partner. And they're kind of one and the same. And the only way you're going to be able to do that if you have some integrity is with the Technotutor business, because in every other business, you're not going to be able to do it because you have integrity. I was talking to somebody about this. I was talking with Seth really briefly.
Hold on. You don't actually have integrity. You have morality.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
can't have
it's true.
integrity if you haven't used Technotutor.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
You're
Now,
not willing to do certain things, which other people will define as integrity.
Right.
So that's what
exactly.
you mean.
I was
Right.
using the common.
The common parlance.
The common core language.
Exactly. But there's a point that was being mentioned of like, they're like, yeah, I couldn't, I was doing this other business and I was doing really well. I was like, why'd you leave? He's like, because I couldn't just stomach selling people a bunch of shit that they didn't fucking need.
Jeff Bezos would be like, pussy.
You know, but that was Mitchell's story, and that was my story, and that was Kian's story. You know what I mean? It's
Asif, imagine if you were still in Australia now.
Bruh.
Holy fuck, dude.
I was talking to some of my friends there, and I didn't know before that video, like a couple of weeks ago, like some of the people that I met there, they're like, yeah, there was like a militarized zone where on the perimeter of their city, where if you tried to leave the city, they wouldn't let you. I'm like,
it's like straight up dystopian, like what's that movie with Tom Cruise?
That's like Berlin.
War of the Worlds. You know, like that kind of level of shit, right?
Yeah.
Zombie movies.
So point is, it's like, you know, people couldn't come to that because of the consequences that we've allowed to accumulate, where their country won't even let them leave, basically. And that is our responsibility. So like Mitchell was saying, it's like, it's very simple. And the reason why we keep it simple is because if you don't get it right now, it's because you're too stupid to get it, just like me. Like I literally could not connect the dots before. So the reason why it's simple is just do the process, and you're going to see every single thing that I see, that Mitchell sees, that Drake sees, that Cameron sees. Because we're just fucking computers. And guess what? If you install the same software on my computer, if you install Zoom on my computer, or you install it on Mitchell's computer, it'll serve the exact same fucking function. So just install the same programs in yourself that are because I'm holding this for, but if there's somebody that you respect, if you admire, that you appreciate, if you can break down what they're doing into words, you can have it too. And for those of you who already have Technotutor, that's the power that you have. You just don't know it yet. So
say that again, because I don't
you-
think people fully comprehended that.
And this is the coolest part. I actually just got this from the Self Leaders call yesterday. And then Mitchell, you were hitting on the point of like, guys, put this into your fucking Technotutor. Like use that for every call, every podcast that you listen to. Like the value that you get over listening to 3 hours of podcast versus listening to 20 minutes of podcast and putting something into your Technotutor. Don't assume you know shit until you put it into your Technotutor. And what I was saying earlier was what I got from the Self Leaders call that Cameron was sharing is everything that you admire in somebody else. I'm using that specific point, but everything that you see anywhere, if it can be broken down into words, which it can, it is something that is programmable, that you can use Technotutor as the mechanism to which you use to program yourself with that same program. So the idea of jealousy, of being jealous of somebody else, that's because you have an idea of lack. Because they have it, you can't have it. When the truth is, this is what Avery always says, you really can have it all. Just walk this process.
Yes.
Like, share, comment, subscribe, join the Facebook group. We're almost breaking 1,000.
We're gonna hit 2,000 this year. That's the goal. I want to show you guys something real quick after we end. So let's end it because I want to show before Mitch goes.
Cool.
Okay,
Bye,
bye.
everybody.
All right, see you later.